How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. It is a fantastic football Friday. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's fantastic. There's college football on right now. There's college football yesterday. We have the NFL playoffs kicking. I mean, this is just a weekend of college football. Like, this is college football, NFL. It is just madness. It is just madness right now. We can't wait to get into it today. But we have our you ever seen, I think is it on Seinfeld when they do Festivus? Is that what it is? It's off of Seinfeld there. A day of grievances, a day of grievances. And today is that day for Aaron because, well, we mentioned college football playoff. Well, Penn State. I mean, that game was there. And I mean, I said it was going to be one of the better games, right? That was a fantastic game. Like, if I'm a Penn State fan, I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, we probably should have won that, but I'm not disappointed. Like, I'm disappointed, but I'm also like, that was a heck of a game. That was a heck of a game. Notre Dame played very well. I would say you'd have to go position by position. Penn State definitely excels in some areas. Notre Dame, their defense is pretty darn good. Like, they have a pretty darn good defense out there. Run defense, kind of, not so much. But that secondary didn't play bad. And, I mean, it was Drew Aller. It was that kind of game for him. I mean, honestly, I didn't like the pass interference call that they gave to Tyler Warrens in the end zone there. The guy kind of was running backwards. And they said he never turned his head, but I don't think he actually he was running straight like that. He didn't hit Tyler Warrens. He didn't do nothing to Tyler Warrens. Warrens kind of brought his arm through that guy's hands, and that guy had his hands straight up in the air. I was like, I don't like that call. I honestly don't like that call. And then, I mean, either way, it ended up working out just fine for Notre Dame, but I didn't like that. That's 2 picks right there. I mean, outside of that, it's 2 picks. It's already telling you Warrens is off. James Franklin got a little bit greedy, but guess what? If you don't get greedy, then people are yelling at you because you didn't get greedy. I don't know, Aaron. I mean, what are your thoughts? I guess I got to get to the Penn State guy. What are your thoughts coming off of that Notre Dame Penn State game where it was right there? It was right there, and it just all of a sudden just fell apart.
I mean, to me, and this is taking my bias completely out of it. I swear to God, I'm taking it completely out there. Penn State's a better team. I think they are. I mean that the first half. I mean, that drop by Singleton, I mean, he's wide open. On the right side there. And I mean, Aller didn't make the perfect throw, but you got to you have to have that. I don't want that. That's 100% on him. I don't care. It hit both his hands. Nobody's, banging into him right there at the line. Just when you get in the red zone, I don't care if it's the Packers, the Eagles, Penn State, the high school down the street. Getting 7 on the board in an important game, I don't care what level it is, it's huge. So, you go into the half 10-0. I felt good, but not great. Or I think 10-3 at the, I think, or
10-3.
Yeah, they got one right before, with the backup there, because Riley Leonard went out.
That was game changer right there with him. That was game changer.
I was actually worried that the backup was going to play better because he looked significantly better. I don't know. I put that game, as much as I have, completely said every expletive in the book about James Franklin. I don't know if I can put that on him. I Drew Aller completely, that meme we talked about, Devin Williams, screwing the whole state. That's he sold in the biggest moment. I get, going into that, and not to get super long-winded because I'm going to have to do some type of show on that game, but there was the receiving core I was worried about all year long. I mean, it showed its face against Ohio State. They didn't do much then. They didn't do anything in this game. Those guys were useless. I mean, it's just being honest, outside of Warren, outside of the backs, nobody was open. Do I give Aller a little bit of grievance for that? Not really. I just because that interception at the end, you can't have that. You can't force a ball under a minute when a tie game and then flip, basically giving them the ball. I think it was midfield, somewhere around there. So, I mean, the defense, they had their lapses. Don't get me wrong. That wide open play in the second half down the sideline, just horrible. Like, you can't have that either. They kept dropping Kobe King into coverage, which I don't know if Tom Allen is like drinking alcohol at halftime or what. But that was mind boggling. The guy can't cover. Like, he's a run, he's a run linebacker. That's it. And that torched them. But to me, Penn State beat themselves more than Notre Dame beat them. I will die on that hill because, Drew Aller just made so many mistakes. He made so many just under, in the fourth quarter. And the defense even like put you in position 2 or 3 times to basically save the game. Like, I can't be mad at the defense. They were out there constantly. And yeah, this was I didn't think Drew Aller had that in him to look that bad, and apparently does. So yeah, it's a shame. Abdul Carter's gone and Tyler Warren's gone. So best player on defense, best player on offense. I don't know. I'm not going to be optimistic. I think they'll be a good team, but this was kind of the year it came together for them. The path was fairly easy compared to everybody else.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I would agree.
And I don't know if I can put it on for today. I almost put some of the play calling problems on Kotelnicki, though. I think in the first half they called some mind-boggling, had some mind-boggling play calls. People were saying they coached really well. I don't think they coached really well. I think they coached well. They coached decent. They didn't coach outstandingly well, but they were okay. I more so put this on Aller more than anybody, and the receiving corps sucked as well. So
yeah, it really. We were talking about before the show, and I heard it. It was the truth when I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody said, I mean, when was the last time Penn State won the national championship? And I think, 1980, something like that.
In the 80s, mid 80s, yeah.
Somewhere in the 80s there. And it was, when do you stop, take a look at the program, see which direction, because you're a consistent program, right? And I'm talking from a Badger perspective right now, where we're the bottom feeder right now, but you put it into perspective of, where are we lapsing, right? And you look at the wide receiver core, and the wide receiver core was a glaring weakness. I think the secondary for Penn State at times plays well, but at other times, I don't like the secondary. I've told you that before. I thought that game that Wisconsin played them, if we had a better quarterback than what Braden Locke was, I thought we could have actually beat that secondary, because the Badgers did have some playmakers in that wide receiver core. I thought that could go toe-to-toe, right? Same in this game here. Riley Leonard wasn't having the greatest game in the world, but makes the throws when they're there. They had a couple of them. I think it was that, what the heck's his name? Greathouse had a couple of big catches there. He had the one where the guy fell down, was able to house it there. And then there was another one, I believe it went to the back, out of that backfield. And I mean, just a couple of timely throws that set Notre Dame up. And they did the little things. That was the thing. They did the little things. They didn't hurt themselves terribly. A couple picks here and there, right? But didn't hurt themselves terribly. It was the back-breaking one by Drew Aller late in this game that just put it on ice. It just gave Notre Dame, the momentum was all gone, right? They had the ball. They were driving. They gave it back to Penn State, and then all of a sudden Penn State gives it back, and it's like, okay, we're back in it now. We're set up nice and well. And, first half, I mean, the run game wasn't there for Notre Dame either. The run game wasn't there at all. Second half, they made it a point. Let's get this thing going. And that Jeremiah Love, he is a fantastic back. Watching him, I know they said he had like 6 hurdles on the year or something like that. And he told them because he was hurt, he wasn't going to hurdle a guy. And I mean, watching him get up, I can't remember who the heck he jumped over the top of, but that was a big guy. That was a tall guy. And he jumped, cleared him, and landed it too. And I was like, whoa. I mean, that is an athletic back. So, I mean, Notre Dame, they might not have been the better team, but they played better on that night. And that is all that matters this time of year in college football playoff. That is all that matters. And it's all that's mattered so far. I mean, we got John, we've missed you. We've missed you in the comments there, John. I mean, Oregon, right? Oregon may have been the better team all season long. They may have been the better team, but that night against Ohio State, they got completely dump trucked. Like, that was not even a ball game. And Ohio State just hit a burner and they were gone. And it was like, try and play catch up. And they just couldn't do it. I mean, and that's college football playoff. That's this time of year. It's just, look at Texas right now. They just gave up a 75-yard touchdown catch to Henderson there before the half with 13 seconds. I mean, that just tells you where we're at right now in college football. It's the big plays. It's all them things that come down to bite. And Drew Aller, he had a rough game. I mean, a rough game, but he's coming back, right? Maybe some optimism heading into next year. I don't know, but I think it rings true. There has to be some program reflection in Penn State. There has to be some reflection of the program, where we're going, right? Because I'm not saying that they're a bad program, because I can't say that as a Badger fan. I can't say they're a bad program, but I think there is still a step that they have to take. They're not there. They've been stuck in we're 3/4 of the way there for a while now. Can they take that next step and get to Ohio State, get to Oregon, right? Because I don't know if they're as good as Oregon yet. I mean, Oregon's got a boatload of playmakers. Would they beat Oregon 5 out of 10? I don't know. I really don't, because that is a good Oregon team. So it's like, where are they right now in that spectrum? I think it's like 1A and 1B, and they're down there. They're down in that middle ground right now. It's a question of, if they do that reflection, do they bring in the right recruits, and can they get over that hump? And is James Franklin and the current coaching staff the one that can do it? I guess that's kind of what we wait and see, right? I mean, we got a long off season, transfer portal, everything else. We got to wait and see. And so Penn State loses to Notre Dame 27-24 in that college football playoff game. Ohio State, Texas at the half right now, 14-7. That's a pretty good game so far. I mean, that's kind of what we expected, a pretty good game. Texas defense is playing well. Ohio State just hit that big play before the half, and that's what the difference is at this moment. But Aaron, we got to get to the big game of the weekend, because there is an even better game that we need to get to. You got one more chance, right? You got one more chance to feel great coming out of this weekend. If this one goes wrong too, I don't know. Aaron might not be able to, he'll have to wait until a little bit later next week.
I might have to check out, man. I might have to check out.
No, he'll be back. No. He'll be back. It'll probably be like February or something like that when he comes back there. But Aaron, I mean, I've watching all over social media. I was on TikTok, Facebook, everything like that. And I keep getting all the Eagles guys, right? I keep getting all the Eagles podcast and talk shows and everything like that. When I tell you that there is a team out there, or a fan base that believes that there is not a single soul that can touch them right now, it is the Eagles fans right now. There is no chance. They're like, no, what is Josh Jacobs going to do? Are they going to lead on Josh Jacobs to run? Sure, we'll stop them. They don't have a Saquon Barkley. And it's like, hold on, settle down. Josh Jacobs is a pretty darn good back. I think they underutilize Josh Jacobs at some points. That's a darn good back in Josh Jacobs. And they're like, oh, well, what are they going to lead on? Jordan Love? Are they going to, all the pressures on Matt LaFleur, all the pressures on this. And I can't remember who it was. What's that show over on FS1? James Jones is on it. It's got 4 former NFL players on it. I can't remember what that show is.
LaShawn McCoy on that show, or no?
I think McCoy's on that show. I think he was the one who was telling James Jones and them about this Eagles team?
He's very Homer. He's a Homer.
Because I can't remember if it was him or not, but he's telling these guys, he's like, oh yeah, what'd he say? Hurts isn't worried, and AJ Brown's not worried, and Saquon's not worried, and Sirianni's not worried. And then James Jones goes, yeah, neither was Aaron Rodgers or James Jones or Sam Shields or Charles Woodson or, the last time the Packers went out to Philly and got that win out there. And it's just the facility, there it is. John, thank you. Thank you. John's in the comments there. The facility is what it's called. And I just saw that and I was like, these guys are writing off the Packers before the game's even started, right? And I heard, one of the stupidest ones I heard was Matt LaFleur did say, everybody's 0-0 now, right? Everybody's 0-0. It's starting over, right? Records don't matter anymore. And this one group of idiots, they're like, what does he mean? It's 0-0, right? He hasn't beat a good team yet. You're right. He hasn't beat a good team yet. He hasn't beat the Eagles. He hasn't beat the Lions. He didn't beat the Vikings. 100%. Everybody agrees with you. But at the end of the day, it don't matter. It matters who shows up on Sunday and plays 4 quarters of football and wins that thing. It's the playoffs now. It don't matter what happened in Brazil week 1. It don't matter what happened at the Lions. What matters now is what happens in between the lines on Sunday. In those 60 minutes. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. So I just find it baffling. I'm watching all these Philly social medias and everything, podcasts and whatever, and I'm just finding it almost humorous, right? Because I'm here telling you as a Packer guy, as a Wisconsin show here, I'm giving the Packers a 40% chance to win this game. 60-40. I'd probably be in that 60-40 range. Right around that. I don't think the Packers are going to get blown out. I don't think that by any means. I think the Eagles are the better team. As of right now, I think the Eagles are the better team. But you're heading into playoff time now. It's about who gets hot, right? It's about who gets hot. Jordan Love and this offense didn't get hot until the second half last season. And I know we talk about it all the time. We're like, yeah, they went to Dallas. Dallas wasn't that good of a team. Dallas was a pretty darn good team. Now, did they have the same caliber of players? You have to look position by position, right? Micah Parsons, yes. You look at like CeeDee Lamb, yeah. But you look at the backfield, did they have the same caliber of back? No. Like they had Tony Pollard versus Saquon Barkley. It's not the same. Jalen Hurts to Dak Prescott, you could make an argument. You could definitely make an argument between those two guys. Playoff Dak, probably not. But, I mean, regular, if you put the two next to each other, you could probably make the comparison there. But I look at this matchup, Aaron, and I'm like, why not? Why not the Packers? Why couldn't they go in there, right? You have the guys. You have this. You went to Dallas last season in the playoffs on the road. And I know Philly's Philly, but you went to Jerry World and, these Philly socials like I was talking about, they're like, you went to Jerry's World. It doesn't count. You're coming to Philly now. Jerry's World is still, I mean, you went on the road. You're still in a hostile environment and you had an even younger team and they didn't blink an eye. They weren't daunted. They walked in there and they did their thing and they walked out a win, right? And then they went out to San Fran and arguably played. I would say that San Francisco team is arguably better than any team that they would see in the playoffs right now. Right now. Christian McCaffrey, Debo, Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, that defense that they had, that offense that they had Trent Williams on that line. They had all kinds of pieces. George Kittle was playing well, Brandon Ayuk. They had all kinds of weapons. That San Francisco team was dang good. Dang good. You could put them up against any team this season. And the Packers went toe-to-toe, and a bad throw here and a bad throw there and a missed field goal by the Packers. We could be talking about the Packers should have been in the NFC Championship game last season. In a season they weren't supposed to be there. So when I hear all this, wow, it's going to be a blowout. There's no way the Packers hang around. I don't think so. Like, I'm looking at this game. Do I think the Packers, like I said before, do I think the Packers are the better team? No, I don't. I really don't. Like, I think the Eagles are better at certain positions, right? I think their defense and their secondary is better. I think that their defensive line, depending on what Packer defensive line actually decides to show up, is better. The wide receiving core, I think that they have more stars in their receiving core. Saquon Barkley, I think, is the better back than Josh Jacobs. Do I think it's like a disparity of, a massive disparity between the two? No. Like, I think Josh Jacobs is a pretty darn good back. Now, do I think Saquon's better? No doubt. No doubt in my mind. Saquon is better. Josh Jacobs isn't like, you're not taking I'm trying to think of a really bad, like an Ezekiel Elliott right now to freaking Josh Jacobs step down. Like, Josh Jacobs is right there. He's like right there. So not right. You know what I'm saying, Aaron. You guys know what I'm saying.
He's in the stratosphere of.
He's in there. Like, you got 1A, 1B, right? You got 1A, 1B. Saquon's up top. You have Josh Jacobs in that middle ground. He's right below him. Like, you would take Josh Jacobs. Like, if you didn't have Saquon right now and you had to pick who's the backs that I could have in the NFL to replace Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs is at the top of that list. Where he's at right now. Where he's at, you're like, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs.
I was going to say, I'd probably take Henry over him, but after that,
the guys you're looking at. Yeah. I mean, you're in that realm of backs there. He's fourth in touchdowns. He's up there in yards. Like, sometimes I think they underutilize the guy. So it's like he's up there. You got playmakers, Tucker Kraft. And I don't think anybody puts into perspective, if Jordan Love plays like we know Jordan Love can, why couldn't they? Right? Everybody's like, well, when Love gets hot, right? We keep telling ourselves, what happens when this Packers team gets hot? What happens when they put a complete game together? What happens when they look good? And we've told ourselves this for 17 weeks now, 18 weeks technically with the bye. We've told ourselves this. What tells you I couldn't start here? So I don't know. I look at all them Philly. Like, I know, Aaron, you're a Philly fan, and I don't want to tell you how you're thinking about this game. But I know you, and I know you're sitting there like, this is still a pretty good Packers team. Like, yes, they have some holes. Yes, they have some things that the Eagles could exploit. Like, don't get me wrong. I know those things. You know those things. But you cannot be sitting there and telling me, like, this ain't even going to be a ball game. It's going to be 10+ points. Like, it's going to be over by halftime. I don't think so. Like, I really don't. I think this Packers team is going to walk into Philly and it's going to be a good game. This might be the best game of the weekend. Like, I honestly think this could be one of the best games of the weekend right here between the Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles.
I do agree with you. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, I think. Because if Jalen Hurts didn't go through this 3-week thing, I wouldn't say it would be a blowout, but I really wouldn't be I wouldn't pause for like concern at all. To be just being completely honest, like I just think where the Packers are right now, where the Eagles have been playing, but these last 3 weeks have been like no Jalen Hurts. So
He hasn't been cleared. He hasn't been
I,
cleared of concussion protocol yet. He's
I
back at practice, but he hasn't been cleared.
maybe I
Because
saw
Romeo Dobbs was in the same boat. He returned to practice, but he never was cleared of concussion protocol. And as of, I believe, yesterday, it still said that Jalen Hurts had not cleared it. He was just like Dobbs was.
I think he did today. So
he can return to practice, but he hasn't been taken out of the protocol, I guess, is what I heard.
I'm seeing on NBC 4 hours ago, NBC Sports Philly.
They did clear him finally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
I mean, I mean, if he wouldn't have played now, I'm like, goodness sakes, like I get it's a concussion, it's serious, but like, lace him up. I hate to say that, but it's like, come on, man. Like I don't know. Like, does it really take 3 weeks to get over? I saw Tua go out there the next week. You know what I mean? So
yep.
I get they're all different. I'm not gonna bash the guy if he didn't play, but I would be
like Dobbs was out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And we kept asking ourselves, we kept talking about on the show here. We're like, why is he still? It says he's in concussion protocol, but he's practicing. So what the heck's going on? So I mean, Jalen Hurts was kind of in that same boat, I guess you could say.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like overly concerned. Like I'm nervous. Like I have a little bit of nervousness to it. It's the playoffs. Like that's how I look.
Yep.
If we were playing the Falcons, I wouldn't. I'd be like whatever. Like I think we could take care of them. The Bucks in Philly, I still don't even pause that. I know the Bucks usually have the Eagles number, but the Packers are like they're a well-run team. It's never like thrown together at the last minute. And like there's some of these teams that sneak in the playoffs, and like Houston, if they win a game, I'll be kind of shocked. Like they look like a mess. The Packers don't look great in their current standing, but I still trust that Jordan Love, can put it together. I don't know if CJ Stroud can put it together this year. I just don't. This is not his year. We talked about how Jordan Love kind of regressed a little bit. There's a lot of reasons, we can probably point to, but I still, like you said, I still think this is a good Packer team, good running game. I think the Eagles are better on a lot of, like you kind of said. I don't know what Jalen Hurts is going to give you. I don't like, he could go out there and ball out and, go 280 and 4 touchdowns. We don't know, but there's, he's played good after these games in the past where he missed a couple games and came back. But I don't know. I mean, your guess is good. Like this is one of those. It's a wild card. It's nothing's. Obviously nothing's guaranteed in the playoffs. But like a guy hasn't played in 3 weeks, that's like even less than a guarantee. So until he gets his feet under him in a game, I don't know how good he's going to look. I don't know. I mean, if the Packers would load the box and make him beat you, I don't know. I still think the Eagles probably find a way. Vic Fangio is the reason, in my opinion, why this team's a lot better. Without him, they're probably, a 10-win team. But I just think the defense has gotten substantially better, and I don't expect the blowout either. I mean, people just get wild on, especially Philadelphia media. You can't – you got to take it with a grain of salt. I guess we're not as bad as Dallas. We don't, every year it's not we're going to win the Super Bowl, but it's kind of getting that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be a good one. I anticipate the same. I'll be curious to see, like how the Eagles offense looks just because of Hurts. And then on the flip side, no Watson for the Packers. So just a little bit of an adjustment. I mean, they're receiver by committee. You know that. I know that. But it'll be interesting to see how these teams match up. I think the Eagles win. I'm that whole comment of like they're not scared. Well, the Packers aren't scared either. Like if you're scared, you shouldn't be in the NFL. No. Like if you're scared, you need to go to CFL or something. Like that doesn't really, to me. I mean, sure, if you're playing the undefeated Patriots, maybe, and you're like the Lions that didn't win a game, yeah, you're probably like we're gonna lose.
Yeah,
but that's human nature.
No, and the Packers aren't walking into this worried, right? They truthfully believe that they're a couple plays away. And I mean, we talk about it all the time. Go back to the Philly game. What happened? Pre-snap penalties. What hurt the Packers in that game? Look at the game against the Lions multiple times. Game against the Vikings multiple times. Pre-snap penalties, slow starts. It's the little things. It really is. Yes, on paper, the Eagles are the better team. Superstars, right? We put star to star. They have more stars. The Vikings have more stars. Lions have more stars. But at the end of the day, the Packers are not. We're not talking like they're 1 versus 7 here, right? We're talking the Packers are the 7 seed, but they can beat the top three. Like, we know that. We watch it. We can see it. We're like, if they can put it together, right? If they can finally put it all together, get past the bad coaching decisions in games, get past the inept play sometimes, get past this, get past injury, they'd be just fine. But we're still talking about those things. So that's the question of, when you go into this game, do those things hurt you? So the injury report, you just mentioned a couple names on there. For the Packers, I think the big thing that changes this game for Green Bay is the health of Quay Walker and Evan Williams. Because if you can get Evan Williams back in there in the safety spot and move Javian Bullard back into that slot, move Keyshawn Nixon back out to the outside, and then you add Quay Walker into the middle of the field there with Edgerrin Cooper, I mean, we haven't seen much of Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker together on the field, but those are two of the most dynamic linebackers if they put their potential together out there. So that completely flips this game, because you're not going in this game. We're not man-to-man. We're not going man-to-man with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and the rest of these guys. We're not going man-to-man. They're going to sit zone. We know that. But the question is, when the Packers sit zone, you can't play relax zone. That's where they're going to get hurt. Letting Devontae Smith, letting A.J. Brown catch that ball, have room to move, and get that 10-plus yards, right? Because the Eagles are okay with walking the ball. They're okay with walking the ball down the field. They want to walk the ball down the field on you, set up third and shorts and such. That's where the Packers have to step up. They got to play a little bit tighter. They're going to have to play some shallower zones. Don't get beat over the top, right? But when you have guys back there like McKinney, Evan Williams, going back there in that safety spot, I'm not as worried about that second, that over the top, I guess. McKinney's a ball hawk. He knows he gets that feeling where that ball is going. So if you can handle it underneath, I like the Packers' chances with handling this kind of weaponry that the Eagles have. Can they slow them down? Heck no, right? You're not slowing down Saquon. I guess I shouldn't say that. You're not stopping Saquon, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith. You're not doing it. You're not. They have too many weapons. But what you can do is you can slow it down, right? You can limit what they can do. You can limit what that ability is. Look at that first game the Packers had against the Eagles there. And if you look at the Saquon Barkley stats coming out of that game, yes, I mean, Saquon had a pretty good day, but you have to chalk that up to he had a couple of big runs in there. Outside of that, it was chunk yardage. It was limited. The Packers front was actually, Jeff Hafley was just speaking on it today. The Packers front played well. They played well in that game. I know we're talking week 1 to now week 19 technically, but the Packers front played well. It's just a matter of, can you slow down Saquon Barkley to the point where you're limiting the Eagles to 3rd and 7, right? 3rd and 6. Take Saquon, because on 3rd down, 3rd and 2, right? What are the Eagles going to do? There's a chance they give it to Saquon. There's a chance that it's, something like that. It's not always going to be that, pass route. Take that away, right? Force some 3rd and longs. Make Sirianni and this offense have to figure something out outside of Saquon Barkley. Don't let Saquon Barkley be the key on 3rd and short because you allow, crack off 3 yards, crack off 4 yards. Okay, now it's 3rd and 3. The playbook's wide open. Limit that playbook a little bit for the Eagles there. I don't hate the Packers' chances if they can do those kinds of things in this game. Get off the field on 3rd down, right? This game's going to come down to who can get off the field on 3rd down. Who can get off the field on 3rd down? Because the Packers, they've struggled on 3rd down. The Eagles, I mean, you want to talk about slow starts. We talk about slow starts all the time with the Packers. The Eagles are actually worse. They're actually worse. They start out the game slower than Green Bay. I didn't know that was possible, but they're actually 24th in the league in starts to games, whereas the Packers are 9th, which is, I mean, we talk about the Packers. Usually their slow starts happen in games where they're playing good teams. So this game, I'm going to be honest with you, Aaron, this game might be won in the 1st and the 3rd quarter. It might be won in the 1st and the 3rd quarter because the Eagles pick it up in the 2nd and they pick it up in the 4th. The Packers are the exact same way. They pick it up in the 2nd, they pick it up in the 4th. So who wins the 1st and 3rd quarters may be the deciding factor in this entire game. I'm just looking at the stats, and I'm like, that's where these two teams like to thrive. They like to put games on ice, right? And we talked about it with the Packers. How big of a lead do you have late in the game? Is it a 3-point lead? Is it 7? If your offense can't move the ball, the 7-point lead, you got to give it back to Philly, or you have a 3-point lead and you have to give it back to Philly. I don't like the odds. I don't like the odds because we've talked about it all year. Can this defense get a key stop? So far, no. So it's a question of what kind of lead can you give yourself going late in this game? And I think that is going to be won in the 1st quarter. I really do, right? Packers get the ball first. They love to get the ball first. They love to, take the opening kickoff. Can you take that and walk down the field and put her in the end zone, right? Make a statement right off the bat. Because then, I mean, I just mentioned it. Eagles, they have struggled to start games. We look at that first game when the Packers played the Eagles down in Brazil. Look at their early portion of that. I know, like, we keep comparing it back to week 1. But we look at that game, and the Packers had 2 opportunities in the red zone to put it in the end zone, and they walked away with field goals. That's the difference in these games. That's the difference in these games, especially when you go into Philly there. So that's something that I'm looking at in this one here. But Aaron, I mean, we got to hit a break real quick. We're at the 30-minute mark already. We got to hit our ad break. We'll come back. John, I see you in the comments there. We'll hit your question when we come back here. We'll talk a little bit more Packers, Eagles. We'll get into a little bit of other stuff. We got Badgers to talk about today. We got some Brewer talk to get into. So just some quick stuff outside of the Packers, but mainly green and gold today. So let's get to the ad break. We'll see you guys back here on the
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in to see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. Next, we have Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood. Have you been injured recently, whether it was at work, shoveling snow, or mowing the lawn? Stop in and see Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. He will get you right, get you back to work, back to shoveling snow, back to mowing the lawn, doing whatever you were doing, feeling better than ever. And then we have Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply in Onalaska to help your team get the sweetest gear.
All right, there we go. Make sure you get the Game Day Supply. They got all that gear that we just mentioned there. That is the sweetest stuff. It's got our logo on the back there. You support us, it's going to be awesome, right? You just got to. Wherever you are, you can support us here on the show. Let your friends know. That's what we want to hear there. So let's look into, we got one across text in line. The Packers will struggle to stop the Eagles' run game. I don't know. I'm more worried. I got to be honest with you. I'm more worried about the passing game than Saquon. I got to be honest with you. Like, Saquon's going to give you Saquon numbers. Like, that's Saquon. Like, you're not going to stop Saquon Barkley. Like, I know that. You're not going to stop Saquon Barkley. The question is, can you limit the big runs, right? Can you limit the big plays? And can you limit what A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are able to do? Because you're not stopping Saquon. You know what? Does that make sense, Aaron? Like, I don't think you're going to stop the key guy in here because you would have to literally unload the cavalry down the hole just to stop him, but you can limit him. You can take away. Like I said, if you can get him stuffed in the backfield a couple times, set him up on some 3rd and longs. Now you force him into passing situations. I think, honestly, what makes me feel better, and it doesn't make me feel better because I hate that Jalen Hurts has been out. I want everybody healthy for this game. But the thing that makes me nervous, I guess, if I'm an Eagles fan is, what is the status of Jalen Hurts? Like, is he completely ready to go? Right? Because what I'm saying is, if the Eagles play like cautionary with Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is a big part of his game is his threat to run, the tush push, all that stuff. Well, Jalen Hurts has been out for 3 weeks with a concussion. You don't want to get him banged up again. So does that put into Sirianni's head like, hey, you gotta settle down back there, right? Let's do other things to take away to make up for what you're lacking there. Does that take away from what Jalen Hurts is going to be able to do, which is a part of that run game? So the run game, to me, they might run all over him. I don't know, right? They might run all over him. You're going to do your darndest in the run game, and I think the Packers will be. I mean, what was it, the first totals? Do you have the numbers up from the first game there?
Yeah, let me get that up for you real quick.
I just wanted to see where they were kind of sitting in that first game because, there we go, 109 yards for Saquon. I could see it eerily similar. I really could. I could see it eerily similar with what Saquon's going to be able to do in this game. My thing is going to be, I was just going to look up scoring plays there right here. Saquon Barkley, where he had a couple of runs, 11-yard touchdown run there. He had an 18-yard pass.
18, yeah.
He had, I mean, look at all the touchdowns for Saquon Barkley in this one game. I mean, we're looking at Saquon, right?
Yeah.
But the run game's not the part that makes me nervous because they got to get down there to put him in position for that. It's the passing game that makes me nervous because that's something that the Packers have struggled with a little bit on the season there. I was going to look up what the team stats were for the Packers and Eagles in comparison there. Let's see here. Defensive leaders, we look yards per game. The Eagles are the best overall there. The Packers, 315 yards per game. I mean, that's not bad. The Eagles, 278. That's phenomenal. But I mean, either way, it's not a bad stat to have there. And then you look at the run defense for Green Bay; they're giving up about 99 yards per game. Now, I'm not talking they're playing consistent Saquon Barkley talent, right? That's besides the point. But in an 18 game or 17 game season, that's not bad. That's not a bad stat to have there. So the run defense for Green Bay doesn't make me as nervous, especially with the linebackers that the Packers have. McDuffie, Wilson, if Quay Walker's back. Quay Walker's probably better in the pass, but Edgerrin Cooper, those guys are better in the run. Those guys are 1,000 times better in the run. They're not as good in the pass. They're not as good in the pass over the middle. We see a lot of bad numbers for the Packers over the middle, which is where what worries me the most is the passing game with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, if those guys can hook up for big plays. Because this game will be one off big plays. Majority of it, I really do think that it's gonna be one in the trenches. I do. I truthfully think it's gonna be one in the trenches. But out of the pass game and run game, I think I'm more worried about the passing game for the Eagles, because you can only control Saquon so much. It's hard to let both things run wild on you. And I think if the pass game goes wild, I think you're screwed. Like you have to be able to control one, and I think the one that you can possibly is that passing game, avoiding the explosive plays.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, if Saquon, if I'm an Eagles fan, he gives you 100, but he's like, 4 yards a clip or 3.8, something like that. I mean, I don't hate that. I mean, I hope I kind of fear that they'll get away from what's been working all year. I don't know why I have that in the back of my head, but I wouldn't be surprised if off the gate they try and get Jalen Hurts in a rhythm early just because he's been out, which I'm okay with. But if they go like 2 straight drives and it's just pass, I'm going to get a little heated, because like that, they tend to do that. They tend to just overcomplicate things sometimes, or just I honestly think because their owner is so like about the pass. He's talked about that so many times. Like, we want to be, a team that is known to pass the ball. It's like, okay, that's fine, but work to your strength. Like, Saquon's one of the best. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Like, so for Green Bay, I think you want to have that bend but don't break defense in this game, in my opinion. That's kind of how the Eagles play. I mean, they give up yards. I mean, they give, you just said, they don't give up many yards. They're better than most teams. But if you watch them play, like they'll give you sometimes, those 10, 15 yard slant, whatever it might be, like middle of the field sometimes. And we talked about, I think the Eagles are like 15th in middle of the field defense. Like basically your linebacking core on coverage.
10 to 19 yards. I think we saw the stat of. Let me see if I can find that.
They're like eerily similar to the Packers are. It's like 1A, 1B type thing.
Yeah, they in the intermediate part of the field, they are 16th in pass, 10 to 19 yards. The Packers are 15th in actually throwing it there. So it's a question of, will you throw it there? And the Eagles, can they stop it if you throw it there?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Packers going into this, I don't quite know how the pass rush has been. I think it's scheme more than players. I really do think Vic Fangio has kind of figured something out there, because they lost Brandon Graham, who was like basically their best pass rusher. Guy's like 50 years old and still better than, everybody else in that line, basically. So I think they've had to do a lot of schematic things to kind of bring that pass rush. I mean, if you're the Packers, if you can control the pass rush, I mean, that's key in any game. That's key. I don't like high school football or high school, college, NFL. You control the line of scrimmage, like you said. Win in the trenches. Like, if you give Jordan Love time, I don't love that for the Eagles. I don't. So it's if you're the Eagles, opposite. Get pressure on him. He's been a lot more conservative with the ball. I don't know how that's going to fare this game. Is it going to be like, let's say the Packers are down a touchdown late, and are they just going to like let him go completely loose? I think they will. I mean, I would, right? Like, but if it's
let him loose from the get-go, I would just let him loose from the get-go and let him be Jordan Love. Like, that is exactly where I'm at with this at this point.
I mean, exactly. You've unfortunately, like, the Packers have slid down to where they're at. You're not like, you're kind of, I'm not saying playing with house money, because still good record, good team. It's just everybody's right. Like, as a low seed, nobody sees you as like a threat. So I'm not going into this game like hanging on to every single like this play has to be perfect. Like, I think that's what Penn State did last night to a certain degree. It was like, all right, let's make it perfect. Like, no, just go for it sometime. there is no tomorrow if you don't win today. There is no tomorrow if you don't win today. That type of stuff, like if I'm the Packers, just go out there and sling it. Like, not obviously don't be like ridiculous with it, but take some chances, right? Like take some and like you said, I mean, this first Packers game there, I gotta give it. It hurts me a little bit, but I gotta give a little credit because at the same time, like there were guys wide open. I remember it. Like there were guys on the and it was either a drop. I can't remember if it was a drop or overthrow, but it was a just a misplay.
Yep.
And like that was a lucky break. I mean, you're gonna see that, but at the same time, I think the Packers will have chances to make plays. I don't think this is gonna be an all-out domination type deal. It's just, what will they capitalize or will they squander those opportunities? Because that's, in an elimination game, that's usually what it comes down to, unless, maybe we'll get into some of the other matchups. But I think most of these games, at least if the team takes care of the football, will be at least competitive at, maybe not the whole game, but 2-3 quarters will be competitive.
Yeah. No, and if you're the Packers, get back to what made you successful last season, the play action game, keeping defenses on their toes, right? They get so one-dimensional. They get so conservative at times, and then other times they're vanilla, and it's like what they're going to do before they even do it. And defensive coordinators are just feasting on that, right? We talk about it so much, how Matt LaFleur can draw up some crazy plays, and he's such a good coordinator and everything. He's such a good coach, such a good coordinator. And it's like, okay, but why are we running the play-action game? You have Tucker Kraft, right? You have Josh Jacobs. You have a dominant run game, and you have some pretty good weapons out there. Use them. Let him do the work for you. Let Jordan Love use his legs a little bit. Just dump that baby off. Let Tucker Kraft get open in the middle field and make it happen. We saw it how many times last season, if you realistically go back and you look at all them plays that Matt LaFleur drew up late in the season against the Chiefs, against whoever it was, how many plays did we see a guy just running down the field wide open all by himself? Just because that is just what the play call was. It was a great play call, schemed it up. All of a sudden, Tucker Kraft, whoever it was just busting it down the sideline. You're like, who the hey has coverage on him? Like, he's wide open. I can't even count on one hand how many times we had that happen. I haven't seen that at all this year. I haven't seen it at all. It's like the play calling has just become, I don't know what you'd call it. I mean, just
vanilla,
basic, like predictable. That's what this offense is right now. When you go into a game against Philly, put it all out there. I don't know if you've been holding back in the playbook. I don't know what it is, but put it all out there. Just let them know. Slap it on the table and say, boom, that's what we got. This is what we got. This is what we're rolling with tonight. Because if you put this defense into some inopportune spots, what tells you that you can't beat this defense? Yes, that is a solid defense. You look at the numbers across the board, that is a great defense. In the past, 174 yards per game, 104 yards on the ground, not a bad defense at all. Actually, a pretty darn good defense, top in the league in yards per game. But at the end of the day, guess what? You watch back to that game in Brazil there, the Packers were moving the football. They had multiple times where they were moving the football down the field. You have progressed from that now. Your weapons are still there. It's a question of, in this game, who steps up? Is it Romeo Doubs? Because John did ask the question here. I forgot to get to that one. Is Green Bay missing a piece, say like another wide receiver? Would you give up a draft pick for Tyreek Hill? Not a chance in heck. I would not pull Tyreek Hill up to Green Bay. Just my personal opinion. I think he brings too much baggage with him. But they need a guy in this game to take that step, right? That was the big problem. Last season, you had a bunch of guys who made up one guy, right? This season, you haven't seen Jaden Reed regressed. Romeo Doubs has been out and then banged up. Christian Watson hurt. It's like, who is going to take that next step and be the guy? Who is going to win in man-to-man, right? I don't know. We don't know. Will Romeo Doubs be that guy in this game? Because if you look, I pulled up the next-gen stats. Jordan Love averaged 7.3 yards per attempt against man coverage with Christian Watson in the game. Only 3.6 yards per attempt without Christian Watson in the game. So I expect a lot. If the Eagles are watching this, if they're watching the film, if they're getting the stats and everything like it, they're watching it and they're saying, with Christian Watson not out there, they can't extend the field. Let's man-to-man them. We saw what Minnesota did to them. Let's do the same darn thing. The question is, do the Packers figure it out early? Right? Because we talked about it after the Minnesota game. Matt LaFleur was like, well, we didn't expect him to play so much man-to-man. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you this now. The Eagles are going to play man-to-man. They're going to man you up just because they see these stats and they know exactly what you can do. You cannot beat man-to-man. You don't have guys who can do it. In quotations. There's guys who can do it. We talked about the separation rate the other day of these receivers for Green Bay, guys who are able to break things open. Dontavian Wicks is a guy who can get himself open. Romeo Doubs is a guy who can get himself open. Same with Jaden Reed. I mean, it's just a question of, in this game, on this night, can they do it, right? Can they do it consistently? Can Matt LaFleur? And Aaron, this is what I'm going to say. This game will be won and lost by Matt LaFleur. If they win, it's because Matt LaFleur coached one heck of a game. If they lose, it's because Matt LaFleur made a boneheaded mistake, like we saw in the Bears game. We saw multiple other times not adjusting to things throughout a game. If they lose this game, Matt LaFleur got outcoached. Simple as that to me. Because at the end of the day, I like the Eagles. I think the Eagles are a great football team. I think they're the better football team. But this comes down to, can Matt LaFleur win this game? Can he win this game? Because it has happened multiple times now. The Vikings game, the Lions game, multiple times now where Matt LaFleur has single-handedly had a handprint on those games with what happened. Whether it was play calling, slow starts, adjustments, all those things, getting his team prepared to walk in there and face the fire. It's been Matt LaFleur. So this game, to me, yes, it comes down to Jordan Love making throws. Yes, it comes down to Josh Jacobs hitting the hole, the offensive line controlling it, the defense controlling whatever they can control out there. It comes down to all those controllables. But Matt LaFleur is the biggest controllable out there. He can control clock management. He can control play calling. He can control all those things leading up into this one, right? Your first 15 plays or so are scripted. They're scripted going into this one. Can you have the first 15 plays take you down the field and put you in the end zone? Did you scheme well enough for that? That's my question. Now, there's some uncontrollables that you can't control in that. I get that. But I think this game is won or lost by Matt LaFleur. I really do. I think that there's things the Eagles are going to do right. There's things when I look at the whole, right? The Eagles can win this game straight up. The Packers could win this game. But I think it comes down to Matt LaFleur is my biggest key in this game to winning or losing if you're the Green Bay Packers. Because if he calls a great game, if the offense is humming, he calls a great game. He's got Jordan Love clicking on all cylinders. I'm sitting there as an Eagles fan going, shoot, going into halftime. Like, I mean, honestly, like, Aaron, if you're sitting there watching and you see Jordan Love come out and it's just like you can see it in his, like, you know, sometimes you watch guys and you can just see it in their eyes. Like, it just looks like, you know, this guy's on a mission. And you watch the Packers come out there and they just, boom, hit you right off your skis to start this game. And it's just like, oh boy. Like, we got a ball game now, folks. Like, this offense, we've talked about it, right? You've said it to me. I've said it to you. If this offense can figure it out, they could be a great offense. And it's just a matter of if they do. So it's just like if they walk in there and Matt LaFleur gets these guys ready to rock right off the bat, right? We talked about the slow starts for both teams. First quarter is slow for both of them. If the Packers come out and they win that first quarter, and they win it, you know, not 6-0 like they did down in Brazil, but 14-0. You know, the flip side of it, if they win that first quarter, you're sitting there like, all right, like, it's not over. The game's not over, but, oh boy, Matt LaFleur's got his boys ready to rock and roll. And that's why I think Matt LaFleur is the biggest difference maker leading into this game against the Eagles.
No, I'm with you. I don't want to say I'm not. My thing is with that is, you know, you can scheme up the best game and then they don't execute. You know, like Jordan Love, it's a collection of, like, if Jordan Love is off, right? Let's just say then, you know, but I totally understand what you're saying. Like, and I even think his, like, decision, like, I constantly crap on Kyle Shanahan because it's like, dude, you get to the biggest game of the year and you forget how to manage things. You know what I mean? Like, that is inexcusable. Like, I don't know if I'd fire him if I was, because they've had so much success, but like he's another James Franklin to me. Like, you know what I mean? What's the difference? He's not winning the whole thing, and he gets you there. You know, he gets you to big games and doesn't win them. Like it's Kyle Shanahan's like that too. It's so if I'm Matt, like if there's a, you know, let's say there's 7 minutes left, the Packers are down by 7 on the Philly 40 or something. Like, you got to think sometimes you gotta just go for, like, you just got to go for it in a game like this. Like, you can't, I don't agree with this playing scared mindset. Like, I get you can't do it all the time. I mean, perfect example of that was that game last night. There was different decisions that could have been made, in my opinion, down the stretch. We might be talking about a different result. Doesn't matter though. Like, game's over. You win or you lose. But if you're Matt LaFleur and this is a close game, like, you can't fumble a decision, right? You can't make if you make a bad decision in the fourth quarter, and there's even question marks of like, oh man, Matt LaFleur did this to us, because if he makes, there's always going to be that to a certain degree. But if it's like football 101, like, come on, man. Like, I get, some people are quarterbacks at their own house, right? Or they call them armchair quarterback. But it's that is definitely a distinguishing factor is Matt LaFleur, whether it be the, play calling. I even think like just decision making, when to go, when not, having them ready to play. We talked about that ad nauseum too. Like, if they're not ready to play, who do you blame for that? Like, at some point, the head coach, it starts with the head coach. So it'll be interesting. I think, where they're sitting right now with like kind of the rough or the shaky end of their season, that doesn't kill you, I don't think, because I mean, we saw like Notre Dame last night, right? They come out of hat. Like, sometimes, as crazy as this sounds, sometimes it's almost better to be the underdog. Like, when you're favored, when you're supposed to win, when you have a lead, like, how many times do we see that come back and haunt people? Like the Falcons, 28-3. Like, you know what I mean? The who was it? The Chargers a couple of years ago were up like 28-0. Like, you can't keep your like how you said, settling for 3, that loses you game. Like, I'm not saying you got to go for it every time you're down there, but if you're 5 possessions and you kicked field goals, 3 of them, usually you don't win that game. Like, usually, unless you have an all-star defense. So cashing those opportunities in. If you're the Packers or the Eagles or I don't care, the Ravens, the Steelers, when you're in the red zone, like, in my mind, it's get 7 every time. Like, don't even think that, there's a chance for a field goal the first 3 downs. Like, let's get it in the end zone. It's do or die. Like, that costs teams games, is settling for 3 when you could have had 7, when you have the opportunity to get 7.
Yep. Yeah, no, I would agree. That's why I'm saying, end of the day, there's a lot of other things that go into a football game. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong at all. But if those things fail you, you're screwed anyways, right? What I'm saying is, if the Packers play like we think they can, what could fail them? And that would be play calling and game management, which I think comes back to Matt LaFleur. I think it comes back to Matt LaFleur on that one. Can he execute? Because it starts with him, right? It starts with him. It works its way down to the rest of the guys. Can Matt LaFleur get the boys ready to rock and roll? That's what I'm waiting for in this one. That's what I'm waiting for. I think that's going to be the biggest thing that I'm watching for. Another thing I'm watching for, I mean, you cannot let – this is going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one to say, but the Eagles cannot go on 15-play drives, because the Eagles can squander a clock like it's that. I mean, you look at these drives that they had against the Packers in this first meeting, and like I said, we keep bouncing back and forth to the first meeting there. But you look at that, I mean, it was about middle of the first half. Their touchdown drive to make it 14-12 in that first half. 9 plays, 70 yards, 4 minutes it took. Drive before that, it was the one that made it 7-6, 11 plays, 70 yards, 5 minutes and 23 seconds. Like, they can burn some clock and burn some yardage just like that. Field goal drive to end the half, 15 plays, 57 yards, 5 minutes and 11 seconds. That is a long time that you just let the Eagles control the football there on 3 straight scoring drives. So the question is, can you get off the field on one of those drives? Right? You're not holding this Eagles scoreless. Like, you're not holding, unless the Eagles shoot themselves in the foot, which would be okay. Like, that'd be okay with me if they shoot themselves in the foot. But I don't think it's going to be like that. I think this is going to be one of those. I think this could be a classic. This could end up being a classic. Like, whoever wins or loses, we could look back on this game and be like, that was a darn good football game. Like, that was a darn good football game. And I'm just looking at it, I'm like, this defense cannot afford to be on the field for 15 plays. They can't. You can't afford that. They got to find ways, like I said earlier, to force those 3rd and longs, get themselves off the field, get the offense back on the field, because on the flip side of that, you can't let Jordan Love sit on the sideline for too long. You can't let him sit on the sideline for too long, because otherwise your offense gets cold, right? So there's all those intangibles that go into that. So I'm looking at the Packers defense and I'm like, you got to find a way to get off the field a couple times, right? If they come away with 3, sure. But it's those multiple touchdown drives in a row where it's like, If the Eagles put up 24 points, I think the Packers are in this game. If they put up 31 plus, all right, now I'm a little worried. Now I'm a little worried about this Packers team now. So I don't hate it all. I don't hate, like you said, you mentioned it before, the Packers going into this one, like they've struggled as of late. Are we nervous going into it? And I'm nervous, right? I'm a little nervous, but I'm also like, I know what this Packers team is capable of. We saw it last season. We know what they are. It's just a question of, can they be that? Can they get to that? And we've been waiting for it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I really don't. I don't know if it's going to happen. But where I'm sitting right now, I'm like, all right. I mean, if they get hot, they get hot. And if they get hot, they can beat anybody. I don't care who you are. They can beat whoever, whenever. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know about that one. I don't really know about that one. But I do have a question. I want to hit that after our hour mark there. I want to hit that question because that's a great question. I had to end it there about the Packers game here. But Aaron, is there any, I guess, keys for you going into this game where you're like, the Packers got to do this to win this football game. The Eagles have got to do this to win this game. For me, I think it's controlling the Stars. I don't think you can't stop them, but I think it's controlling them. I think it's controlling Saquon Barkley. It's controlling A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, not letting them get buck wild with the explosive plays, right? Limiting them, keeping it up there, gang tackling, right? That's going to come down to, you know what the Eagles did not see when they were down in Brazil? Edgerrin Cooper, which I think he becomes an X factor in this game. A lot of these games, right? I think another key for me, turnovers. Big games are won with key turnovers, right? Key moments of a turnover in games. You had the one the Eagles, or when the Eagles and Packers played. That was back 2011, 2010. I can't remember when the
playoff. You're talking
playoff with Mike Vick.
Oh, geez.
And Gandhi, blanking right now on the last time they played in the playoffs.
I'll get it here for you. 2011. Yeah, 2011.
2011. And they had that pick. I think was it Sam Shields had that pick in the back of the end zone there against Mike Vick?
Yeah.
Oh, was it Shields?
Was
it Shields who had the pick?
Mike Vick in that era. It's going to be, let me see.
Oh, now I can't remember.
Let me see if I can pull up the actual.
Oh, it's 2010. That's when it was. 2010. Who the heck?
Oh, 2010 season. Yeah, January 9th, 2011.
Yeah, it was 2010. I'm thinking Super Bowl season here. But who had the pick in the back of the end zone? Was it? I don't remember if it wasn't Shields, was it?
Defense. Tremont Williams.
Yes, that's what it was. It was Williams there.
That was
Williams
with
the pick in the back of the end zone. Yeah, it was Williams with the pick in the back of the end zone. 2011. That was the wasn't that the 4th and 26? Was that the 4th?
No, that was McNabb.
What was the 4th and 26? That was McNabb. What year was that?
04, I think. It was the year they went to the Super Bowl, I think.
Yeah, that was the 4th and 26. That was another.
That will live in infamy. That was like a miracle. I mean, you talk about miracles.
That was about as bad as it gets.
That was like David Tyree. Like you try that, 100 more times, you ain't get it. That ain't happening hardly at all. Like it just.
Can you imagine? Can you just imagine? 2011 was the pick by Mike Vick. There we go. 2011. Can you imagine if this game the Packers flipped the 4th and 26? It was a flip the script on it. Jay Love completes it over the top for big first down. Oh my God, I would lose my mind. I'd be texting you all left and right there. But Aaron, I mean, we're getting close to that break there. But we're looking at the keys of the game. Got a little sidetracked there, but looking at the keys of the game there, it comes down to turnovers. Who can force turnovers? Who can limit turnovers in this one? And also for me, time of possession. Because if you, like I said before, you let the Eagles hold on to the football, milk that clock, keep Jordan Love on the sideline, keep that offense cool, keep Jordan Love cool, keep the Philly crowd engaged, right? I think that hurts. I think that hurts the Packers' chances there. Another thing I was going to say with the crowd noise, I believe it was that 2011 or that 2011 team when they were going into Lincoln Financial Field there. They said that they wanted the crowd noise because they wanted to feed on it, right? Because if Philly fans were making more noise, guess what? That meant that they were doing something. That meant that they were doing something good. If they heard the booing and they heard everything like that made them feel good. That's something the Packers need to do in this one. They got to feed off of that. Don't let it hurt you. Don't let it get to you. Feed off of that if you're on that defensive side of the football. I don't hate the Packers' chance in this one. I think it's going to be a good one. But, Aaron, what do you got for keys to this one here before we hit the ad break? And I got my big question coming out of the ad break.
For the Packers, I think like you said, controlling, like I'm kind of in lockstep to a certain degree. I just think, I mean, if I'm the Packers, I'm trying to, I'm not saying, pull a Greg Williams and killed Jalen Hurts, but like, I'm trying to knock him on his backside as much as I can. You know what I mean? He hasn't played in 3 weeks. Knock him off his spot. Get him like rattled a little bit. I don't know how much, like you said, I don't know how much he's going to run in this game. You want to control that. Like, I just think control, like you had said a lot already, is just controlling that pass offense for the Eagles. I think that is you're not going to stop Saquon Barkley. I don't think anybody really has all year. Honestly, over 2,000 yards. I mean, that's kind of speaks for itself, but it's, if you can limit the passing game and red zone defense, like red zone defense is going to be huge in this one. Same thing for the Eagles. I think they're going to allow, I don't expect them to be like massively aggressive on Jordan Love. I think at some points you're going to see a lot of soft zones and then try and beat us in the 20s, see what they can do there. But I just think if you stop Josh Jacobs, I'm not overly concerned with the passing game. Like, I just think with the guys they have on the defensive backs and safeties and stuff like that, it's been sound all year. I mean, in exception to a couple of games, like if I'm the Packers, I'm probably watching that Tampa game. I have no idea what happened there, but it was like everybody's wide open. It was early in the Vic Fangio coaching, career in Philly, but that was just god-awful. I mean, I could have threw a touchdown on that one, but I just think those are the type of keys. And on the flip side for the Packers, like if you get the running game going, RPO with Jordan Love a little bit, just that type of thing, roll him out, at least roll him out. It's kind of the same thing for a lot of games, just balanced attack on both sides. If you can limit one of those, you have a lot better chance to win. I don't care what team it is. So.
Yep. No, I would agree. And that was going to be one of the things I was going to say coming off yours, if you didn't say it, there was that RPO. It was that play action game, getting going with Jordan Love, because he has a scramble ability. Josh Jacobs is a darn good back, and you have some darn good weapons out there in the room. I don't care what anybody says about needing a number one wide receiver and needing all this. Guess what? You use the play action game. As good as Jordan Love is at looking off a defense, if you use that play action game there and he can draw the fake, he's going to bring everybody to him, and Tucker Kraft's going to be screeching the middle of the field. So that is where I'm looking right now. I am saying that Matt LaFleur, he's just got to not overthink it. Don't overthink the game, right? Just keep it simple sometimes. Those third and longs, right, or third and shorts, I don't need you to try and air it out. Don't air it out on a third and short. Do something simple. Dump it over the middle. Do those little things. Get them first down. Use Tucker Kraft to move the sticks. He's a stick mover. That's what he's there for. Utilize him. Keep it simple. That's where we're looking. I got a big question coming out of the break there, Aaron. So I'm going to save that. Anybody out there, make sure you are answering in that question there. Let us know what you're thinking about the Packers game here. Let us know what you think about the Packers game. Packers and Eagles, Vikings and Rams, whoever you want to talk about. We're going to talk about all those games as we get to our picks here towards the end. So, Aaron, we'll come back here. Other side of the break, we'll get more into this Packers-Eagles matchup, and then we'll get into some of the other matchups. We got a little bit more to get to today here before we wrap it up. So we'll see you guys.
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Marshfield Motor Speedway, located 3 miles outside of Marshfield on County Road H. Tons of family fun for all ages. Great food, great drinks, great racing. I cannot think of a better way to spend a summer day or night than down at the track. Next is Sports Scene in Marshfield, Wisconsin, located at the Marshfield Mall. Get down there and see Al. He has everything you need, from sports cards, memorabilia, jerseys, model stock cars. He's got it all. Sports Scene in Marshfield. And then we have Peggy Sue Beslick, Century 21, Do you want to find your dream home or maybe looking to sell your current property? Let Peggy Sue Bestlick at Century 21 help you with all of your housing or property needs.
New year, Aaron. Like I always tell you, buy, sell, move into that new home, get rid of that old clunker. You know what you got to do this time of year. So, Aaron, this is my question. Before we get to the other matchups and everything like that to wrap it up here at the Packers. If the Packers lose this game, is this a failure of a season? Because, and this is why I'm going to say because, the Lions took a step forward. We don't know what the Vikings are going to be next year. We don't know about Sam Darnold yet, but the Vikings took a step forward. The Eagles took a step forward. The Packers did not. We watched what they do at the end of last season there. We thought coming back into this season, we're like, this could be a Super Bowl contender. And I still think that they could be. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the Packers could put a run on. But if they lose this game, look back at the schedule. Look at what they've done this year. Yes, they have more wins than last season. I will say that. They have more wins. They're 11-6 right now. They'd technically be, if they lost this game, 11-7. They have more wins than they did last year. But look at who you lost to. You lost to the Lions twice. You lost to the Vikings twice. And you technically lost to the Eagles twice. The three best teams in the NFC. After that, you beat the Rams when they were beat up, right? You beat the Texans, but the Texans are down. You beat the Cardinals. Outside of that, you beat the Seahawks. The Bears once off of a field goal, right? A blocked field goal. Outside of that, you don't beat the Bears at all. You don't win a division game. I mean, to me, there's a lot more riding on this game than just advancing in the playoffs for the Green Bay Packers. This is the difference between a successful season and a bad season. Like a dud of a season. This is a dud of a season if they lose this game. Like, in my opinion. Because, honestly, I mean, you beat teams, right? You won the games you were supposed to win. Like, great, right? Great. But after we watched this Packers team last year, they returned relatively the whole core. After that, you beat the Lions last year. You beat the Vikings last year. You beat the Bears last year. You beat the Chiefs last year. I mean, you had how many good wins last year? You obliterated the Lions on Thanksgiving last year. But now this year, not the same story. So I guess, Aaron, my thing is, I define a successful and a not so successful season on your wins and losses and who you beat along the way. Not just beating the crap teams, right? Look at last season. They beat the Rams 20-3, lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but then they beat the Chargers, beat the Detroit Lions, beat the Kansas City Chiefs, lost to Tampa and New York, but then they went and they beat Carolina, just completely obliterated the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota, and then beat the Bears to wrap up the season before then going into the playoffs and completely, I know the score is 48-32, but they completely obliterated the Dallas Cowboys in their house on the road in the first round of the playoffs, and then went to San Fran, and outside of a missed field goal, that's 24-24. I mean, going into this year, I was like, you're at the point where it's Super Bowl or bust. Like, at the end of it, you're the Green Bay Packers. Like, it's not just making the playoffs. You don't go to Green Bay and just think you're going to make the playoffs, right? Yeah, it's cool to make the playoffs. That's Mike Tomlin. He's made the playoffs 45 times. When you come to Green Bay, it's Lombardi. It's the Lombardi trophy. Like, it's about winning trophies. And when at the end of the day, when you were supposed to take this big step forward, you didn't. You actually regressed. So to me, this Eagles game is a huge game because it defines this season. If you go to Philly and you win this game, I would not hold it against the Packers to go on a run then. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. If you can go in Philly and win, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Okay, I shouldn't say you're not going to have a problem. I take the Lions with less than I take the Eagles, to be honest with you, because I think the Eagles are the more complete team right now due to injury than the Lions. So Lions are getting healthy. That Anzalone guy came back for Detroit against the Vikings there. That dude is an animal in that linebacker corps. So, like, the Lions are getting better, but they're depleted. They're depleted right now. So I don't know if you beat Philly. I think you can go on a run. I really do. But I think that this game has a lot riding on it for the Green Bay Packers and defining themselves going into the offseason. You win this game, you go to Detroit, you lose, you feel a little bit better about yourself. You lose this game, you lost to all top 3 teams in the NFC, and you are the third best team in your own division. I don't know if you can end the year like that. I really don't, because you did not take a step forward. You took a step back, and now you're going into next year with Matt LaFleur as your head coach, and you're like, is he on the hot seat now? Because he's winning games, but at the end of the day, Aaron, you say it all the time with Mike Tomlin, you can win games, you can get to the playoffs, but when you get there, what happens, right? It doesn't end good. You always lose. You bounced in the first round. Now, Matt LaFleur hasn't had that problem yet. Like he's consistent. Like last season, that was making the playoffs for the Packers last season was a success. Like that was a success. Like we drew it point blank. But once you do that, now you have to take the next step. And I think they went backwards. So the question is now, Aaron, do you define this as a lose? Like, do you define this as a losing season technically if they don't win this game? I really do think it is. Like I struggle to see the positives if they lose this game. I really do. I struggle to see the positives off of this season outside of it was just a dud.
I agree. I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm never like, take moral victories, this and that. Like, there's people last night trying to, well, they're getting closer. They're getting I understand that argument. If you're the Packers, right? We'll flip it back to its relevancy here, but yeah, you're gonna make the playoffs again. You're in the playoffs. That's a guarantee. Okay, cool. Like it's the same thing with the Steelers, like you said. You get to the playoffs. Now what? Like it doesn't. Getting to the playoffs, yes, it's an accomplishment. It's not easy. I'm not gonna say it's like, these teams should be shoo-ins because they went last year. No, the Packers, went last year. They beat Dallas, beat the brakes off them. I expect, like, I was one of those people that, like, I don't trust Dallas at home, but I'll still give the Packers credit, right? They showed up. I'll take anybody going into Dallas, though. I don't, like, if it was Tampa Bay, if it was anybody that goes into, for whatever reason, like, Dallas has found ways to win outside of Dallas for some reason, which doesn't make sense, but maybe it's the sun. You would think they get used to the sun by now, but I don't know.
That is a beating sun to those
other teams play in the same environment, but for some reason,
just A-Rod can go down there and get her done.
He's got the special sauce. We don't know what it is. We might have an idea what it is, but it's no. I think you're right. I mean, I'm on that wave of thinking myself, just because when you beat is it really a massive accomplishment when you beat the teams you're supposed to, but lose to every team that that you feel like you can beat some of those teams. You feel like you're a team that's competitive enough to challenge that. Like, if you came out, they played 6 games, would you say, against good team, like upper echelon teams? Would you say that?
I think they've played some great teams. They played some good teams, and then they've played some not good teams.
Let me see so they lost to the Lions twice.
Yep, lost to the Vikings
twice. Lost to the Eagles.
Arizona's hit or miss. Depending on when you got Arizona, that could be a good team, and when you got them, they could be a bad team.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think the biggest thing that holds me back is when you look at the wins, and we talked about it, it's like, how many complete games did they put together where they look good from kickoff to the end of the game? How many of those did they put together? Maybe the Cardinals. The Seahawks was close outside of that third quarter, maybe into the fourth. And then Saints were the Saints, right? I mean, you should have been able to put a complete game together. So it's like, how many complete games did you put together? San Francisco was close. Miami, I wouldn't say Miami. The Bears, definitely
Houston
not.
was a nail biter.
Houston was a nail biter. McManus won it with the walk-off. Jacksonville was close. The first 2 you had, I mean, there was some uncontrollables, right? Jordan Love gets hurt. You can't control that. I think it derailed part of the season with Jordan Love getting hurt. Why do you say that? Because, your offense is still trying to grow together. Without Jordan Love, they have Malik Willis. Malik Willis did fine in that time, but with Jordan Love out, and then when he came back, he's still technically hurt. Like he's not moving around like he should be, which limits the playbook, limits what guys are able to do, changes everything. I mean, it's one of those kinds of years, but we did have one across the text in line that said, I would not call it a failure. I'd say more of a growing year. I do agree, but at the same time, what we're saying is Like, yes, they're young. We've talked about that. There's the excuse of they're young. But being young and being young are two different things. Edgerrin Cooper's young. He's a rookie. He's young. These guys are in their second year. They've played a lot of snaps already. They've been to the playoffs. They understand the playoffs. They played in big games. They played the Chiefs. They played the Lions last year and picked up a win on Thanksgiving. They've done those things. They've been there. So if this is a growing year, how many more growing years can we have? How many more growing years are there? Because if this, you can't go from last year going to the divisional round and dang near should have, if you would have played, should have, could have, would have, right? But if you put it together against San Fran and got to stop, or, Anders Carlson hits that field goal, you could have walked to the NFC Championship game, went up and played the Lions, who you just beat the brakes off of on Thanksgiving, and then who knows, right? But then we're talking about this like, yeah, it's okay. What are we calling last year then? Are we calling it a fluke?
I'm not gonna say
are we saying that it was a fluke? Because that's the way that it makes it seem that if this was a growing year and last year was a growing year, then going to the divisional round last year, was it a fluke? Were we not supposed to be there? No, we weren't. We weren't supposed to be there. But guess what? We got there. Why? The talent that was on the football field, the talent that was there, the drive that these guys had. So now I look at this year and it's like, if you only make it to the wild card game as a 7th seed, and I know the seeding was tough this year, right? Look at the NFC North. I mean, my Gandhi, the Vikings are getting a 5 seed and they're going on the road and they have 13 wins. Like, that's nuts. That is absolutely nuts. But I look at it and I'm like, if you lose all your big games in 1 year, how do you count as a win, right? Luke Fickell. I'll bring it back to Luke Fickell for 1 second, Aaron. I'll bring it back to Luke Fickell. What is Luke Fickell's worst problem? He has no signature win. He can beat all the crap teams, but he doesn't have that signature win. No Penn State, no Ohio State, no Michigan, nobody, Iowa, nothing of that. He has no signature win. That's the problem. The Packers, look at their schedule. Where's their signature win? Like, honestly, that one win when you look back on this season, if they lose to Philadelphia in the first round of the playoffs, look back at their schedule and show me where the signature win is. And I don't see it. I don't. Because San Fran would be, but guess what? They had nobody. The playmakers were all out. Christian McCaffrey hurt. Debo was, kind of there, but kind of not. Brandon Ayuk out. George Kittle, half of himself. Brock Purdy, half of himself because he doesn't have half his weapons. The defense banged up. Trent Williams gone. Like, they didn't have their guys. So where is the signature win? And John does bring up a good point. Rams at the Rams. Guess what, John? And my computer just froze on me, Aaron, so I can't bring up that comment there. But I don't know if it brought it up.
Yeah, no, I see it, and your face is frozen, but I hear you.
So, yeah. Okay, perfect. My face always freezes at a terrible point. I can see my face right now.
I like it.
The Rams game, the only thing I will say, no Puka Nacua, no Cooper Kupp. Neither one. They did not have those two guys in that game against Green Bay. Their number one receiver was Atwell in that ball game. And I think Whittingham actually led them in receptions or yards in that game. But they had Atwell and they had Whittingham. Outside of him, you didn't have the weapons. You didn't have the weapons yet. The defense was still trying to figure it out. I don't know if you'd count the Rams as a signature win. So you look back and you're like, where is the Packers' signature win? This would be it. The Eagles game would be the signature win. And I don't know if you can call it a successful season. If you look back on it, you say to yourself, they didn't have a signature win.
I agree. Because like, how good are you if you, like I said, like if you only beat the teams that are you're destined to be, like, I'm not saying you play the game on paper, but you know what I mean? You go into some of these games, like Miami in Green Bay. I was like, there's no way Green Bay loses that. Like, that would be like, Miami doesn't play good in the cold weather. Green Bay is a better team overall. Miami had their problems this year, that's for sure. Go on and beat the Titans. Who the Titans aren't good. The Colts aren't good. The Texans have had a down year. That was a squeaker, but it's one of those things you gotta have it. Like, if you're gonna have a good season, to me, you gotta have a signature. Like, if the Bucs go out and lose in the first round, that's not a good season. You played in a crap division. You put it together and made the playoffs, but like, to me, making where are we at? What's the standard, right? And you already kind of said that. The Packers, it's Lombardi or bust. Basically, last year, I'm not gonna say they peaked too early, but they weren't supposed to be there. I'll put it that way. They weren't, and like, you love seasons like that, but you want to build on a season like you said, you want to come back to the same point and go forward. You don't want to just regress. So, I mean, yeah, if you count what do you think about the Seahawks?
Like I said, I'm not discrediting the wins that the Packers have. You have to beat the teams that you beat. The Seahawks is a good win. You won in Seattle. But what did we say about complete games? Putting complete game together. I don't think they put a complete game together in Seattle. I thought that the play calling and in that third quarter, I thought that they left meat on the bone. And they did that multiple times this year. I can look back at some of these good teams like the Eagles, like the Vikings, like the Lions, right? I can look back at some of their games and I can say they left nothing left to be desired. Like they put teams away, they buried them. Look at the Lions against the Vikings, right? This last time out. And the Vikings coming in, they were like, we got a shot for the division. This is for it all. And the Lions said, here's my foot. I'm going to turn it sideways and I'm going to put it straight up your candy behind, right? Just like that is exactly what they said to him. And then, Dan Campbell playing his mind games then. He said, Kevin O'Connell after the game, he's like, hey, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, right? The Rams now have a picture in their locker room that says we'll see you in 2 weeks because the Rams are using that as fuel. Dan Campbell's playing mind games right now with the Rams to say, hey, go beat them so we can play you instead of having to play the Vikings. Like that's Dan Campbell. He's just 3 steps ahead. But I look at those good teams and I'm like, well, I mean, the Lions defining success this season would be Super Bowl. Vikings would be probably NFC Championship, Super Bowl. I mean, nobody expected them to be here. So getting to the NFC Championship would be a big boost. The Eagles, I think at this point it's Super Bowl, right? Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl. The Packers, where's your definition, right? Where's your definition? What's going to define success for this season? I don't find it successful if you lose to, first off, 2 division teams twice, right? Twice, the Lions and the Vikings. They took steps forward. It seems like you took a step back. You technically, in all technicality, should have lost to the Bears twice. You are almost 0-6 in division play. I don't find it to be a successful season unless you beat Philly. It's honestly, to me, unless you beat Philly, yes, I agree, John. Like a notable win, you could go through the schedule and look at notable wins, like what defined their success this season. I mean, notable wins. Okay, the Colts, right? They beat the Colts with Malik Willis. That's a notable win, right? Did a lot for him. Same with Tennessee. Beat Tennessee with Malik Willis. I count those as notable wins. I would agree. Like those were defining moments in this season to prove like, hey, we can win these games with our guys being banged up. Same with that game against Arizona. I mean, they played a great game against Arizona. The Rams, like that. Yeah, they beat the Rams, solid, but I don't know. Where are the Bucs notable wins? Eagles, Lions, both just have irritable games.
I mean, they're good wins.
Eagles,
you can't.
Eagles. I mean, where's their notable wins? I would say Commanders first time around. Ravens 24-19.
Oh, I think he's saying like because the Eagles and the Lions both played down to them, basically. Like, are those wins notable? Like, but you gotta give credit. Like, if the Bucs pull off a win, like they beat the Eagles defense was horrible that game. Like, but it doesn't matter. Like they won. You know what I mean? They won. You either won or lost. Like it's one of the.
That's a notable win by the Bucs.
And the Lions too. Like they beat the Lions. You know what I mean? You go and beat Detroit. Detroit, what? They had 2 losses or 3 losses all year. Like they're the number 1 seed. I mean, I don't know how you just because they had a terrible game doesn't mean the Bucs. I'm just saying if the Bucs lose in the first, like these teams that just spin their tires in the first round, like the Bucs. I mean, how many times has Houston done that? Over the years with Watson. They did it last year with. I know last year was, no one expected that with Stroud, but like these teams that just you get into the playoffs just to go right out. That is to me how is that a success? The Steelers, how is that? And especially on a team like the Steelers, where Super Bowl or they're tied for the most Super Bowls of all time, and there's fans out there saying Mike Tomlin's the GOAT. It's like that doesn't make sense to me. And then the Packers, you're Super Bowl or bust. I even think the 49ers outside of this season. It's been Super Bowl or like if they don't make the Super Bowl, it's at some point you gotta either you're a team that's like we're ascending or we're just here. We're how like the Falcons are just here. They're just existing in the playoffs unless they pull an upset.
Yep. To me, you define success off of if you took a step forward or if you took a step back. Now, if your whole roster gets imploded, okay, different story. Like you can't, like if your whole roster's gone from the season before,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
different. You're rebuilding, right? But the Packers aren't rebuilding. They're not. Like this is the offense is relatively the same as what we saw last year, outside of Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs taking a flip, right? And I would say Josh Jacobs is just good of his back. The offensive line, same, right? Relatively, actually, I thought the offensive line has played better at times this season. And then I look outside of that wide receiver core, I thought they regressed. I think they went backwards. So yeah, Buffalo, are they spinning tires? Until they take that next step, you could say that they're spinning tires. You could say that they're spinning tires until they take that next step. That's why people are calling for Sean McDermott's job if they don't win the Super Bowl. Like if they don't get over the hump, I mean, when's the time you move on, right? Because, I mean, John, 100% with you. We agree, like, Buffalo has success, right? But how do you define success after a long time? Penn State, we just talked about them earlier. Success, right? They make it to the college football playoff. They're always in the talks. They're always near the top of the Big Ten. But at what point are you going to take the next step, right? The Packers have got to take that next step. This season, I don't know if they've taken that next step yet, because they've left a lot to be desired. What could have been? What could have been if the offense would have figured it out? There's so many of those little things where they beat themselves in games where it's like, why are they not growing out of this, right? Last year, excuses. They were young. Get it. Got it. This season, 17 games in, where's the excuse? Why is there still that excuse of they're a young team? You have to be able to grow out of that. Otherwise, you got to find somebody to replace it. You got to find somebody to replace that player, because if that player continuously messes up or continuously gets called for those pre-snap penalties or is dropping passes or is doing this or doing that, you wouldn't get brought back to your job every single week, every single year if you failed to give them success. And what defines success for the Packers, for the Eagles, for some of these bigger, better franchises out there? It's Lombardies. It's not divisional crowns. Yes, divisional crowns are cool, but at the end of the day, you got to take the next step. And if you just paid Jordan Love all this money, you expect this team to take the next step. That's what you expected when you paid him all that money. So now it's a question of, can the Green Bay Packers take that next step? So that's why I say this game has a lot more riding on it than just a win or a loss and a go home or not scenario. This has a lot to do with defining what was this season for the Green Bay Packers. So, I mean, I expect a good one. I really do. I expect a great game there. We're going to be back. We're going to recap that on Sunday after that game goes final. Pretty soon after the game goes final there. We don't want to interrupt Bill, right? Because I got to watch Bill. If the Packers win or lose, I got to watch Bill freak out or, be happy for a little while. So I got to watch Bill after that game there. But, Aaron, let's check the Brewers out real fast. I saw their starting payroll for their starting pitchers. My wife, she's the producer of this show. I know a lot of you guys don't know her. My wife, she's great with helping with the show and everything. She writes most of this for the show here. We just wing this crap. She just throws it at us. She throws all this stuff. I mean, Aaron knew it before the show even started tonight. She's down here. She's telling me all this stuff that we need to talk about tonight. She sent me this off of Facebook there. The Brewers starting payroll currently for their starting pitchers. So, Aaron, you look at some of the numbers for other teams and you look at the Brewers, right? Freddie Peralta, $8 million. Aaron Savali, $8 million. Nestor Cortez, 7.6. Tobias Myers, 800,000. Aaron Ashby, 3.4 mil. DL Hall, 800,000. Robert Gasser, but he's injured right now, but should be back, 800,000. Brandon Woodruff, 8.75 mil right now. You're spending, less than $40 million on your starting rotation. I would love to go.
I was just going to pull up the Yankees because they have free
Yankees, Diamondbacks now. Like, I look at the Diamondbacks now with Burns. Like, that is baffling when you look at what the Brewers have got right now. And we're in disputes right now. So William Contreras, we're in arbitration right now with William Contreras. He wants $6.5 million. That's what he wants. That's what he put out there. The Brewers want to give him 5.6. 5.6. We're arguing over that with William Contreras. Possibly the best catcher in baseball. Possibly.
Top cat, yeah, top three, top two. What do you know what I mean? Yeah.
And we're arguing with him over, like $1 million. We're arguing with this dude over $1 million right now. Are you kidding me right now? Like, are you kidding me? Like, we should be talking about with this dude extensions. We should be talking about locking this guy up long term and keeping him in Milwaukee. And we're arguing with him over $1 million. Guess what happened when we took Corbin Burns to arbitration court? Yeah, I mean, Matt Arnold loves to take dudes to arbitration. Like, loves to take dudes to arbitration. He loves to get over there. I see, every time I freeze, I click out of it. Now it works. So we're good now. We're good. He loves to take guys to arbitration. He loves to take them to court. But at some point, 1 million just needs to be 1 million. And you just got to spend it. Like, you just got to spend it. I saw a report the other day. We were talking about it that night about the Brewers getting the FanDuel. They were getting that new FanDuel being out with FanDuel Sports and getting more money and everything like it. And I believe, I was just looking at it, one of the guys from Brewer Fanatic, great place if you want to find anything Brewers to go search, what's going on with Milwaukee. And they said that the Brewers have found themselves between the FanDuel and between money coming over from the luxury tax, because that kind of gets distributed among teams there. They have about $12 to $14 million to spend now, an extra $12 to $14 million, which is a little bit more than what we had before. So I'm looking at it now. I'm like, 1 mil, like, pay this dude. Just pay him. Just give him his 1 mil. Keep him happy. Let's see if we can work an extension out with him, and then go out and sign somebody else. I don't care what you got to do, but keep William Contreras happy. This is one of your big bats. This is your future right here. Keep him happy. It's just ridiculous sometimes with this Brewers team why they can't buck up $1 million to keep William Contreras happy.
Yeah, penny pinching to the max, right? It's some of these organizations. I don't get, and even like at 6 million, like that's a value, right? Like I forget what JT is like regress. I mean, that guy, you talk about regression. That guy is the definition of regressing. I mean, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And he's making, I think, like 20 mil. And it's like, right now I'm taking Contreras by like a landslide. I mean, I know Ruto can run, like he can run and stuff, but 266 on Realmuto last year, 14 home runs. He gets injured constantly now. I guess that was back in 2019. He was making 6 mil. But I tend to think he's making more than that. I tend to think he's making significantly more than Contreras. Like, is it really worth pissing a guy off? You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna the guy's gonna be like, yeah, do I really want to? Like, I know it's not all about money, but it's a slap in the face when you're asked, like, when there's a $900,000 difference and you're just like steadfast as an organization to save. Like, that's all that is. It's not saying he's not worth it. They're just saying we can get you for less because that's how we run things. It's like the A's and Moneyball. They're trying to make things where it's like, oh well, here we go, and we're giving these guys to the Yankees, giving these guys to whoever. Yep. So it's I mean, you got to hope that things change. It's just. It doesn't look like right now.
I don't know who does it at MLB Trade Rumors, but they had his projected salary at $7.6 million for 2025. So Brewers want to give him 5.6. He wants 6.5, and the projected was at 7.6. Just give him 6.5 and walk away. Like, it's not. I don't think it should be. Before arbitration, he was making $766,000. This dude wasn't making nothing to play for you at this point. And now he's one of the best catchers in the game of baseball. And you want to lowball him? You want to lowball this guy? Like, I don't know. I mean, they did agree. So outside of William Contreras, the other guys who are arbitration eligible and they got him signed up there, Yoel Payamps, he was estimated at 2.8. They're going to give him 2.9. Trevor McGill was estimated at 2. They gave him 1.94. Nick Mears was estimated at 900,000. They gave him 960. Aaron Savali was estimated at 8. They gave him 8. So, I mean, the rest of the guys are kind of figured out. It's just the big bat, right? The big guy, William Contreras. We can't figure him out for some reason, somehow, some way. We're going to lowball him and piss him off. That's basically where we're at with William Contreras there. Colin Ray. He's with the Cubs.
Brewer legend,
Ray
right?
is going over to the Cubs. Brewer legend and Craig Counsell's favorite, I guess, because all these former Brewers, Craig Counsell's just getting Milwaukee South. That's what he's trying to work through right now. He's going to get Milwaukee South. We're going to have the Brewers out to the east there with the Mets with David Stern, and then Craig Counsell's trying to get the rest of the scraps and bring them down to Chicago there and see what he can do with them. So Colin Ray ends up in Chicago. I mean, you weren't going to utilize Colin Ray. They have a lot of pitchers in there right now, but I mean, I don't know, Aaron. This whole thing with William Contreras. It's driving me up a wall.
Got
It's
to,
driving me
yeah.
up a
It's
wall.
understandable. I mean, you're not.
Seeing the Brewers lowball a guy
Yeah,
again.
you're not asking them to, like, they didn't go out and get Soto or so. You know what I mean? Like, if they made a move like that, and you're trying to, I don't know, just kind of penny pinch, right? Everybody else, like, okay, I understand it, but they didn't go out and sign, one of the top free agents in the MLB. Like, come on, at some point, it's like, give me a break. Like, you're selling tickets. I know the TV deal went down, but you got to think these teams are making enough money. Like, there's no way they're not. I didn't look at, like, are they in the red or whatever, but I just don't see that. There's no way that they're that hard up for cash. Like, there's just like, if the A's are going, I mean, the A's went out and got who was it? A couple guys that I'm like, how in the world did they pull that off? All right.
They signed Brent Rooker to really cheap too. I think Brett Rooker is not making a lot. He's like 5 years for like 50 mil or something like that. I don't even know. Some stupid deal that I don't know how they got him.
That is, I did see that. I mean, good. I can respect him for staying there though. That's loyalty. I mean, he could have got more money somewhere else. There's no doubt.
Oh boy, Texas is gonna drop this to Ohio State. Jack Sawyer
losing his mind.
He should have been. I don't know how that son of a gun didn't get suspended after that game against Michigan, but he just took one to the house. Quinn Ewers fumbled it, took it to the house. It's now 20. It's going to be 28-14 there. So Ohio State will advance there. But Aaron, let's get to we're woefully towards the end of the show here. Holy crap, Ola, we're already 6 minutes over there. I don't know what's going on now. I almost just lost the whole screen there for a second. But let's before we just completely go haywire here, let's get to our picks for the weekend here. We got a big weekend of NFL games. Let's get to our picks for the first round of the NFL playoffs, the wild card games. So let's start over at the AFC. Let's start with them Saturday games and work into our Sunday games, then to the Monday game. So let's start with that first one there, the 3:30 game, Texans and Chargers. That one's going to be in Houston for that game. Chargers coming in. I would imagine they're the favorite right now. They're 3-point favorites on the road there. Give me a shocker. I don't hate CJ Stroud. I'm rooting for CJ Stroud. Give me the shocker there. Give me the Texans to pull it off. They're going to win that game. I like the Texans to win that game. I think they flip it. I think it's going to be 3. I think it's going to be 3 the other way. I like the Texans in that one.
Yeah, I gotta oppose you there. I think just Chargers are playing better football. This Houston team I haven't trusted really all year, and this is one of those. I just think they're limping in. I trust Harbaugh more than I trust D'Amico Ryans right now. The guy's been there, done that as a head coach in the playoffs. So, but I think this will be a good one too. I mean, 3-point spread. That's what you like to see in a playoff game. That's really like a coin flip because it being at home for Houston. I do think the Chargers though, but I would not be surprised if Houston pulls it out. It would be shocking if they went on a run though in the postseason. That would be like wow, but even crazier things.
Yeah. John says Chargers by 10. We'll throw John in here too on my tally sheet. John, we'll throw you on there. We'll let you be involved in the picks there. Aaron's got Chargers and John's got Chargers also. Okay. Next up, we have the next Saturday game, Ravens Steelers. That game's going to be in Baltimore. Baltimore's favored by 9.5. That is, I mean, for this kind of rivalry, 9.5 is a lot. Like, this game's going to be closer than that. I just got that feeling. This game's going to be closer than that. Give me the Ravens, but I don't think that the Ravens cover the spread. I think the Ravens win. I just don't think they could. Not in this rivalry. Not in the playoffs. Not in this rivalry. I think they keep it close. Pittsburgh just doesn't have enough weapons. They don't have enough weapons. They have Pickens, but outside of that, they don't have enough weapons to beat the Ravens. So give me the Ravens, but I don't think they cover the spread.
Yeah, I'd love to see Pittsburgh pull this upset. That would be just awesome. I think that would really break it up in the AFC a little bit better than your like usual suspects with like Chiefs, Ravens, Bills. Like it's literally like locks.
No Zay Flowers.
No Zay Flowers. Yep. I'm with you though. I'm on the same wavelength too. I think this is a closer that spread. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm like blowing a poster size piece of paper up and printing that out. Like that is a slap in the face to say the least. I know they beat the brakes off them. Like, this was a couple of weeks ago now. The Ravens did beat the Steelers there, but I I think that was no George. Yeah, there was no George Pickens, I don't think, in that game. He's obviously good to go. I think the Steelers make it a game. It's a divisional rivalry, like you said. I just Baltimore is too much with Henry and the boys there. But I hope the Steelers make it like a nail biter. That would be fun.
John says, matters what Russell Wilson shows up. Ravens going to run. Can Steelers slow run down? Zay Flowers out, gives me Ravens by 2. So John's got the Ravens there. Aaron's got the Ravens. Hold on. I got my wife in here now. She's hitting me up. She's hitting me up through the text. She's watching. She's like, give me the Chargers. Give me the Ravens. So she's got the Chargers. She's got the Ravens. I'm the only one with the Texans. I'm the only one with the oddball pick right now. You have to be that guy. You got to be that guy with the oddball pick. Anybody else out there who is watching tonight, if you want to comment in, if you want to comment in, you want to let us know what you're pick the games. We'll put something on this. If you want to bet with us on games, we're not going to bet you money, but we'll bet you like a pie to the face. Like we'll bet you something like that. If you're out there in the comments and you want to comment in who you think is going to win one of these games, or you want to take a bet with us, you let us know through the comment section there. So next up, we have the Sunday slate. Let's get on to the Sunday slate here, Aaron. First game out of the chutes. Bills, Broncos. I really want to shock the world. I really want to shock. I don't hate Bo Nix. Bo Nix playing, I think it was in that, they played in a pointless bowl game when he was with Oregon there. And I don't like Oregon. John knows that. But he played in that pointless bowl game, and I just gained this utmost respect for him because you don't see guys playing bowl games anymore. I just gained that utmost respect for that guy, and he's played well. He has played really well this season here. Right now, Buffalo's favored by 9.5. I think that is absolute blasphemy. Like Broncos defense is good. Like nobody gives them credit, but that is a good defense. They're like John just said, they're Bills, but they won't cover. I don't think the Bills cover. The Broncos have a darn good defense. That's going to be a tough game for the Bills straight out of the chutes. I like the Bills, but I if there's going to be an upset over the weekend, I don't count Chargers Texans as an upset. I don't. Steelers Ravens, I really don't either, because that's divisional. That's rivalry. That's not an upset to me. That's like two brothers going at it there and just see what happens out the other side. Like that's how I see that game. I think the Broncos could beat the Bills. I really do. I think they could beat them. I like the Bills. I think they win this game. I think they're the better team. I think the Broncos do keep it close. I don't think the Bills cover.
That spread is a little too large. I think the Bills win by 7, though. I don't think it's a field goal. I think it's more than that. I think eventually
a good game.
Decent game for sure. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I do think Bo Nix will come a little unglued in this one. I just think at some point it'll be too much. Like Buffalo at home, it's just going to be too much. Like they're good.
The rookie's going to come to life.
It'll be like one of those moments where it's like, whoa, like, he just hit a wall. Like it's too much. But like you said, I mean, you never know. I don't always trust Buffalo either. I mean, given their track record, but it's not the Bengals or it's not the Chiefs. So I give them the upper hand. And like I said, I think the Broncos are ascending the right way, which I'm kind of a 1 foot in, 1 foot out that I like it because Sean Payton to me is like one of the people I root against so heavily. But I'm with you on the Bo Nix take. I mean, he's been solid. People said he was going to be a good prospect. He was. He's fulfilled that so far. So give me the Bills as well. But probably all three of us. I feel like they might cover, but I feel like they won't. Like I don't feel great about them covering.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be
like. I think the Ravens could cover. I think the Ravens could cover that game with the Steelers. I just don't think they will. I think it's going to be closer. And I think the Broncos defense is good enough to hold them in a game with Buffalo. I really do. I think Buffalo is going to be too much at one point, but I think the Broncos defense is pretty darn good. Autumn says the Bills too, so she's in there with the Bills. Next up. Do we think the Lions make it through round 1? Do we think the Lions will make it through round
1? Somebody might get injured. I mean that
somebody might get banged up getting through there. The Lions are the team that needed this. They needed that bye because hopefully they can get somebody back, right? Anzalone coming back was huge. That was a huge comeback, getting him back in there. Against the Vikings, you saw it. I mean, he is phenomenal. So getting him back was huge. Maybe they can get a few more guys back there. Next up, Rams, Vikings. Hold on. Oh, well, John's flipping ahead of us here. Slow down, John. Slow down. He says Washington, Tampa. Only issue I have with Washington is they play to their opponents, barely squeaking games. Tampa is going to have foot on the gas and blow them out. Okay. John's taking the Bucks. To blow them out there. What do you got, Aaron? Let's go to that one then. We'll go to that game and then we'll come back. Oh no, Rams and Vikings. That's Monday night. John's ahead of me. That's why. I'm going ahead of John right now. I'm sorry for that one. We got Bucks and Commanders. I'm gonna take the Commanders. I like the Commanders to win that game. Something about Jane Daniels. I love that one. I love watching Jane Daniels play. Give me Commanders to win that game against the Bucks.
I might sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth now, and I am. But the Commanders there, they won 5 in a row. I mean, that's a good way to end the season, right? Marquee win. I mean, Eagles. I think I forget who else they beat there, but Buccaneers. I mean, outside of that Cowboys weird game, I mean they've treaded they treaded water without the receivers there. Godwin and Evans being out, like they found a way. Just Tampa at home is a little different to me always. I'm going to take Tampa. I think Washington plays well, but it's just going to be one of those. Once again, it's a rookie. Like I do like Jane Daniels a lot. I wish he wasn't in the NFC East, but I just feel like Tampa's going to make, like, Baker's got that experience level on him. I just feel like they make more plays down the stretch, but this game is really interesting. I think it's going to be a good one. I'd be shocked if it gets a blowout on either side for me personally, but I think the Bucks pull it out in a close one, in a like wild one. I think this is a potential to be very like wild game. Weapons on both sides. Good quarterbacks on both sides.
You guys are just all basic, and I'm just throwing out the randos over here because Autumn goes Tampa too. So now basically it's just me against the world with all these picks. John's got the Rams over the Vikings. We'll get to that one first. We'll come back to the Packers Eagles. So Rams, Vikings. I don't know. Okay. Autumn says that game could go either way. She's telling me the Buccaneers Commanders could go either way. We agree. It could go one. I mean, I don't see it as a blowout. Like John's telling me it's just going to be put the gas pedal down and just blow them out. I ain't seeing that. I think Jane Daniels can duel. I think he can duel with the best of them. So we'll see. I mean, they do play down to opponents. I will give you that. They do play down to opponents at times. And, they hurt themselves in games that they win. Look at the game against the Eagles where they're throwing picks left and right, but still ended up winning the football game. Like, they were trying to lose. They just couldn't do it. The Eagles wanted to lose more than what the Commanders did that day. Rams, Vikings. I'm going to take the Rams. I like the Rams. Right now, it's technically a home game, but it's technically not. They had to move that game down to Arizona for that one. But I don't know if the Vikings have the answers in the secondary for all that weaponry that the Rams have. Stephon Gilmore ain't keeping up with Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp. He's not. He's old. He's not keeping up with them. Metellus in that slot is not keeping up. I think the weaponry with Matthew Stafford takes over in that game, and I think the Rams win that ball game against the Vikings there. Though, if Sam Darnold, if that was just a fluke game against the Lions and he steps up, this could be a great game. But I like the Rams pulling off that win. So does John. Aaron, what do you got? Rams, Vikings. Autumn, she's a Vikings fan. I can't wait to see what she says.
I see now I sound like I'm like following the crowd again because I was thinking like I feel way more.
I went against the crowd every time. You could go with the crowd. Autumn's going against the crowd. Here, I'll give you hers. She said, I have my many doubts, but I'm going to stay true, and I'm going to go with the Vikes in this one. So she's got the Vikings winning that one. She's a Vikings fan, though. She has to. Either that or she works the reverse psychology and is like, give me the Rams because the Vikings will win that.
Just wouldn't it be something if the way the Vikings lost to Detroit, just not looking like the team that, we think that they are, and then losing in the first round, like that's all this good season, it just crashes down real quick on you, and it's boom, it's over like that in the first round. I kind of see it though. Me, I've been calling for Sam Darnold to implode all year. This is
your chance. This is your chance right here.
It's a kind of like, under all the lights, spotlight, everything else, playoff time. I don't trust them to go and win that game. They can win that game. It's not like I give them zero chance. Stafford, McVay, like not to take anything away from O'Connell, but I just feel like Stafford's going to go off in that game. I just have that. This is, how many more times we're going to see Stafford? Like his days are numbered. Like in the league, he's been banged up a lot. So, yeah, give me the Rams. I think the Rams are kind of a force to be reckoned with if they get hot for sure, which they have the potential to. So, and I like the Rams front too. So
I do. Me too. I agree with that. Verse has been fantastic. He's come along, and that's where early on in the season, you were like skeptical about that defensive front. No Aaron Donald anymore. It's like, what's going to happen there? And then all of a sudden, they just flipped the switch, and it was back on there. So last up, we did not pick this game, but this is the one that holds the most true to our hearts here on the show. Packers, Eagles, Sunday afternoon there. The Eagles favored by 5 at the moment. I'm going to tell you this now. Give me the Pack. Give me the Pack to win this game. It'll be a touchdown game. The Pack is going in there, and they're going to say, we're not worried. We're going to take care of our business. They're going to put a complete game together. Matt LaFleur is going to look good, and it's just going to be one of those days. And then after that, I don't care what happens. If they win this game, I don't care. But I like the Pack to win that one. I think the world doesn't think it, so I think the Packers will win this game. I just think that's how it goes sometimes. The world's against you. They're like, you ain't going to be able to do it. It gives you the fuel. It gives you the fire. It gives you the energy. You go in there. You knock off Philly. Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown a pass in 3 weeks. He's got 4 passes in the last 3 weeks. I don't like that. I don't feel comfortable with that if I'm a Philly fan. I think the Packers take advantage early. They put the score. It's not going to be out of reach. This is what I'm going to tell you. Prediction for the game. Packers come out, they get hot. They put the big lead on them early because Philly struggles early on. Packers struggle, but not as bad as Philly. They put the big lead on early on. Eagles come back. Packers put a big run on again. Eagles come back. Packers hold true. They're up 2 possessions late in the game. Eagles go down, kick a field goal, get it to a 1-possession game. Jordan Love, bam, gets a completion, first down, game, bam. Give me the Packers to win that one. I got to love it. I have to. If we're going to go coach to coach, player to player in this one, give me the Pack. Just give me the Pack. They got the fire. They got the fuel. They're going to go in and win this one. I don't trust Sirianni. I don't know what everybody's like. They just love this guy all of a sudden. They had him on the chopping block, and then all of a sudden the Eagles started winning, and they're like, oh my God, Sirianni's the greatest coach in the world. Matt LaFleur is so worried about Sirianni. It's just like, where did that come from? Like 3 months ago, we were putting this dude out we're kicking him to the curb. And then all of a sudden they started winning, and it was like, hold on, right? Sirianni's the greatest coach in the world. Now all these Eagle podcasts and everything are like, Sirianni's going to lead the Eagles to the Super Bowl. It's like, hold on, shut up. 3 months ago, you were telling me Sirianni couldn't lead you guys out of a dark cave with a candle at the end of it. Like, I don't even know. Like, it just baffles me sometimes when people talk about Sirianni, and they're just like, now all of a sudden he's a good coach. Like, where did that come from? He sucked and now he's good. You can't do that. You can't have both.
Trajan, you gotta tap into some Philly coverage more often because that's how it goes.
God, it drives me nuts.
That's how it goes. Like I remember when Alec Boehm made 3 errors in one game, and he's like, "I effing hate this place because they're built like they gave him a standing ovation basically for making a routine ground ball." Which I like that type of stuff. Like you get paid millions to play the position. Like I maybe it's just the Philadelphia fan in me.
Oh,
like,
I'm good with that. Like, it's just this Sirianni thing. It's we were sending him out, and now he's the greatest thing to ever happen since sliced bread. You can't have both.
Literally, that was the same thing with Boehm though at the All-Star break. Like, because he goes in a home run derby. It was like, oh my God, this guy has power. Like,
yes,
he's the second. He's the second coming of Mike Schmidt. Like you heard, everybody was like, "Oh my God, Alec Boehm is like the best. He's better than A-Rod." And it was just going on and on and on. Then the playoffs come. He gets benched for a game. All of a sudden, Alec Boehm's a cancer. He sucks. He can't play third base. He doesn't hit home runs as much as he should. It's the same. Like I'm telling you, if you're hot in Philadelphia, you can do anything. You're invincible. The second you struggle, like if they lose this game, against the Packers. Oh my God, it will flip script so fast. Like it's Philadelphia is what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? If you're hot, you're the man. I never doubted that guy. He's the man. He's the best ever. Like I love Sirianni. If they lose this game, you're gonna be like, oh, I knew that's the reason we were gonna lose. Sirianni sucks. He has no idea what he's doing. So it's so Jekyll and Hyde. I'm telling you, like Reese Hoskins. How he talked about how the Midwest is different than like. Philadelphia. It's the same thing in New York though. Like Yankee, if you're a Yankee and you're like people hated Aaron Judge after he dropped that ball. Yeah, they hated him. Like get him out of here type. and that's a horrible mistake. But getting it back to the game there, I think the Eagles do win. 5 points is not that many, really. It's not an NFL game. Less than a touchdown, more than a field goal. It's a weird spread to come to, I guess. But yeah, I'm not overly worried. But if they take, if I don't care what.
Aaron, be worried. Don't tell me that. Be worried. We can sense it in your voice. You're like, I just watched Penn State lose to Notre Dame.
I'm more worried the Eagles beat themselves, which that's every team I like does that. So
that's all it takes. It's all it takes. And Jalen Hurts is coming back from a concussion. We don't know what he's all about at this point. Like there's a lot of negative that people are not looking at heading into this game for the Eagles. Like they're not looking at that.
And that does happen. Like we see it all. Like it'll just be one of those games. But maybe I'm trying Kenny Pickett out there. No, I'm just kidding. But
that McKee guy, I like that McKee guy. He can.
Yeah, he might be a little trade piece in the offseason. But he could be. Yeah, I literally on Twitter on X last night I picked the Penn State score exactly right, but it was Penn State whatever it was 27-24 or 20. I think it was 27-24. So I think the Eagles do win. It'll be the Packers score though, because I picked the exact points to a T, but I'm going to say it's Eagles 36, Packers 28. I think they cover.
Come on now. Come on. Cover your crack. The pack is back. It's coming back tomorrow night here. Or Sunday.
You got to wait a whole another day.
Sunday.
I miss college football Saturdays too. I already missed it.
Now that I just watched Ohio State beat Texas, now I'm. You texted me last night after that Penn State game. You're like, I'm done watching college football. Now
I just can't. I can't. And now I have like a little bit of hatred for Notre Dame, even though they didn't really do anything.
No, now you have to cheer for Notre Dame.
But I have to. Yeah, that's what. But it goes. It's like the World Series for me. It's the less of the two evils. Once again, I'm rooting for the less.
It's like when Kansas plays Duke in college basketball. I hate Kansas. I hate Duke. But when they play each other, I cheer for Kansas. I just have to. That's just how it goes. Yeah, John, absolutely. You never picked who's going to win the game between Packers and Eagles. You just asked us if the Packers win, do they fire him? You have to tell me.
Who's John, what, a Patriots fan or something?
Patriots. Yes, big Patriots guy.
Big Patriots. And
John, do the Patriots win this weekend? That's my question. Do they win? Well, we got to wait for John. John's got to come back. I got one across the text in line that says that Anakin Skywalker looks like J.J. McCarthy. No. First off, there is no Anakin Skywalker looks like J.J. McCarthy. If anything, J.J. McCarthy would look like Anakin Skywalker. You cannot say that one guy. No. Let's see here. I got the picture pulled up. I was looking that up before here. Here we go. They got a side-by-side image of those two. Yeah, I could see it. I don't know. J.J. McCarthy kind of looks, when he kind of got that long hair going on, I don't like him anymore. I don't like that face. Like he looks like one of them guys that like he's that dink at the like frat party. Like
absolutely, like absolutely. He's the guy that says, girls get in free, but I don't know who you are. You know what I mean? He's that guy. He is.
Yeah. I don't like that look. I don't like that look. When he was at Michigan, he looked like an innocent dude that I didn't hate so much. And then I look at him now and it's like,
He looks like he should be at the skate park. Like this guy, how is this guy an NFL court? Like I'm not saying you got to look at Purdy. If I saw that guy, I'm like, oh, he probably works for State Farm. But I mean, some of these guys, are different. But I don't know, man. He doesn't like if I'm like an old lineman on the Vikings and this guy's yelling at me. I'm like, come on, man, really?
Yeah.
Like, have you gone through puberty yet? That would be my question to Jay. Like you are not us, man. You are not us.
Isn't that something though? He's only 21. Like this dude's in the NFL.
Yeah, we'll see.
Like that baffles me sometimes with like Jackson Churio and those guys in the MLB. Like when the Brewers when they got into the playoffs and they had like the champagne and everything, they had the non-alcoholic over in the corner for Jackson Churio. Like that just baffles me that guys are in the big leagues or in the NFL and they're like, these guys are barely drinking age. Like that's nuts. That is nuts. They're out there full grown men. And they're barely drinking age at this point there.
And I'm not trying to like rain on, like, I don't want him to do well, but I don't root against, like, I'm indifferent because he went to Michigan and it was annoying. It was annoying when they won. But he, to start his career, both knees or the same knee twice?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm writing him off, but man, show me a tougher start to your NFL as a quarterback too. As a quarterback in the league, that is brutal to say the least.
Did you see that Deshaun Watson underwent surgery? He tore his Achilles again. Did you see that?
He's probably out all year again. Like, that is the worst contract ever written.
Oh my god! Like, I don't like that guy. What he did, that's not great at all. Like, he's a terrible dude. But like, holy crap!
If you're a believer in karma, it has come full circle on him a couple times.
If all them court cases were the truth, he's got 20 some more times of karma coming back to bite him yet, and this is only number 2. So we got 23 more times this thing's gonna bite him there. John says that the Patriots. I asked him if the Patriots are gonna win. He said the Patriots can't win without getting help in that O-line and a legit wide receiver. We got to wait for the draft, John. We got to wait for the draft. It's coming. It's coming. The Patriots are like, I think they took a good growing step. The whole Mayo thing was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And Kraft coming out afterwards saying I hated to do this to a guy was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, that was so stupid. But what I saw out of them this year, I think they took a step. I think they took a step in the right direction to rebuilding. They got their guy. I think Drake May played well. I don't think he had a lot of weapons there. I don't think he had an offensive line, but for what he had, I thought he played well. And I think their defense took a good step. So, I mean, Patriots are heading in the right direction. It's just a matter of how long it's going to be before they get there. Right. So we'll kind of see there. Aaron, we're way past the finish line here. Holy crap.
I got to bring up one thing, though.
I was just about to ask you if you had one more thing before we wrap it up. One more. Only one more.
It's pretty, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. But if you remember in the World Series, you remember those Yankee fans interfering with bets, Mookie Betts, down the line? Not this is huge news, but it's always fun when the fans are involved to me, because it's like one of us almost basically making the news. They suspended those fans. I don't know if it's one or a group. I didn't get to see that much of it, but they're banned indefinitely from going to baseball, not just Yankee Stadium, like going to baseball games. I don't know which side of the fence I'm on that. It's hard to, if you're in the moment and you're trying to get a baseball, especially if you had a couple in you too. I mean, if you're sauced and you're like trying to reach for a baseball at a playoff game, it's not like they completely like, I don't
Was
know.
that the one where they grabbed him though? I
forgot.
There was a line that was crossed. They grabbed his glove, and when you do that, you could hurt guys. Like,
that's right.
Hanging on by a thread there.
That's a very good.
Yeah, I'm banning him. Like, you can have the try to grab balls. I get if it was an interference thing. Like, I get that. Like, the interference, it happens. We've seen it happen way before that. But when you start grabbing players,
how long?
You're
lucky.
Long are
you giving him? You're Rob Manfred. How long are you giving him?
I'm giving him a year.
That's not bad. I was like 5.
I'm giving him a year. Like, you figure it out. And if we hear any even like rumblings that you did anything ever again, like, done with you. Like, we will ban you from ballparks. Like, that's just how it is. Like, you're putting player safety on the line. These guys, right. I mean, just imagine Mookie Betts breaks his hand. Like, holy crap, breaks his hand. Like, just something silly. I mean, it seems like it won't happen, but we've seen crazier injuries. He breaks something doing that. Now Mookie Betts can go after them with lawsuits. And then you have a whole different mess to deal with. So I think a year would be justice. I think that'd be justice. But I think those two fans should be suspended for a long time there. We didn't get to the Badgers tonight. I meant to get to the Badgers, Minnesota. We didn't get there. We had a lot to talk about Packers-wise. We'll get to the Badgers, Minnesota. I want to recap that game on Sunday there. I didn't get to watch a whole lot. It was a mess of a day. Service call, practice, everything like that. Didn't get to watch the full game. I have a whole Saturday. Now I got games tomorrow morning. But after that, I'll sit down, watch that game. We'll recap that game on Sunday here, along with the Packers, along with whatever else we got to recap. So we got lots to get into. One last thing from John there. Banning you indefinitely from all MLB stadiums, offices, and other facilities. The letter said you are also hereby banned indefinitely from attending any events sponsored by or associated with the MLB. So yeah, I mean, I'm with it. I don't see why that's a Rob Manfred ain't losing money. He ain't losing money off of it, so he'll get over it at the end of it. And I think they got what these, it's like that Lions fan that like was given the threats at Matt LaFleur when he was holding the flag down on the field and like was giving him the, like the cutthroat sign and everything like that. Like, and then they took away his season pass or his season tickets. And I was like, yeah, that's the way it should be. Like, you're down there on the field, you're holding the flag. Shut up. Like, you're out there to hold the flag, not taunt the sideline, not taunt players, not taunt head coaches. Like, your job is to hold the flag. And if you can't do that, guess what? See you later. So I'm glad that they did it to him. Like, that was just a stupid look, a terrible situation, and just terrible on that fan. Like, that made a fan base look bad for a little while. So I didn't like that at all. But yeah, I mean, like I was saying, we didn't get to the Badgers-Minnesota game. Badgers got the big win over the Minnesota Gophers in what could have been probably the least watched, Big Ten basketball game in a long time there on Peacock. Like, nobody really cared. 80-59 there was the big winner for the Badgers there. Steven Crowell, 18 points in that one. John Tonje had a good night. He had 16 points. 15 for Kamari McGee in the starting lineup. John Blackwell, 9, 8 for Nolan Winter. No Max Klesmit, though. He was out for this game here. I still think that guy from Rutgers should have been suspended, but guess what? He didn't get a flagrant or nothing out of that, so I guess we can just walk underneath the guys now while they're shooting. So Max Klesmit was out for that one, but outside of that, Dawson Garcia had a great day for Minnesota, 22 points there. Badgers, like I said, big win, 80-59. I don't want to talk anymore on it because I could just throw all the stats at you, and I didn't watch the whole game. I watched bits and pieces of the game. So I want to sit down. I can watch the whole game in total. We'll get the recap. We'll talk about that Sunday here on the show. We'll talk about the Packers-Eagles, hopefully talking about a Packers win, not in Aaron's sake, but in all the rest of our sake, we're talking about a Packers win come Sunday here. We got lots to get into Sunday here on the show. So with that, for Aaron and myself, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you guys back here on Sunday. But until then, see ya.